Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station live from the Comcast Business Studios. 97.5, The Fanatic. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade and Salciunas. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Well, we finally made it. We finally reached the week of training camp. Eagles have their first practice on Wednesday. They report tomorrow. But, of course, we can't go in just feeling all great and warm, filled with sunshine, because there's got to be reports that come out right before the week of training camp starts.
Reports, huh?
Reports. We'll discuss it. Nick Sirianni, all eyes are on you. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
This year, the 2024 Phillies rotation has pitched better than the 2011 Four Aces rotation.
And it's been a bunch of years since the team has had 3 pitchers with 10 wins before the All-Star break. This is historic.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Monday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
Looked like you got a little toasty tan there, which is good.
Well, yeah, man. When you just spend like 12 hours outside drinking all day on the beach, that'll do it for you.
That's why I said toasty.
Yes.
I meant it in 2 different ways.
It was a nice weekend with the boys down the shore. You had a nice weekend in New York City.
It was nice.
Connor Thomas had a nice weekend golfing on Saturday and Sunday. So a good weekend for the show. We all hope that you had a nice weekend as we finally reached weather in Philadelphia where you could actually go outside and enjoy yourself. Because the last couple of weeks were just miserable when it was like 95 to 100 degrees every single day.
We did 12 miles in Manhattan on Saturday, and it was cloud cover, little bit of a breeze. It said it was 85 degrees, but it didn't really feel that way.
It's good.
It was
beautiful.
Awesome. You weren't soaking wet.
Yeah, you actually can enjoy yourself. Yeah, you picked a good weekend to do that.
Absolutely awesome.
And Diana Rossini picked a good weekend to drop more Nick Sirianni drama because we're about to get to training camp. The Eagles have their first set of practices on Wednesday. They report tomorrow. We have press conferences this week. Scheduled Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio. We'll see if Jaylen Hurts speaks at some point this week.
Oh, he's speaking all right.
Yeah, all ears will be on what Jaylen Hurts has to say about Nick Sirianni. We know how OTAs ended, where it was his last press conference. He was asked about Nick Sirianni and his ability to adapt and change and what does that make you think about Nick Sirianni? And he didn't really give an answer. There's talk about how he may have been confused by the question. I call BS, as confused as the question. As bad, I know you don't like the question. As bad as the question may have been, it's easy to just come up with a BS, bogus answer to talk about Nick Sirianni in a positive light, and he didn't do it.
Considering everything he ever says is completely planned and scripted. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me he got surprised by a question. That's
about Nick
absolutely
Sirianni.
Absurd.
Right.
Especially when twice before he had failed to answer the question. He knew it was coming. But he's talking, though.
He is talking.
Because he's talking to whisper down the lane to Diana Rossini.
Well,
come on.
See, my first thought was Brian Johnson has Diana Rossini on speed dial, but maybe it is Jaylen Hurts.
No, I get. Well, first off,
who knows? 2
creams, 1 sugar, Brian Johnson. I don't believe Diana Rossini is leaning on. Why did it go wrong? Tell us your side of the story.
Hey, you're looking for every bit of information you can get.
Yeah, but then she runs with it as his opinion. This was the Diana, and I like Diana a lot, by the way. I think she does nice work. This was the most one-sided, useless.
Useless?
Yes, completely, because it was one-sided. It was absolutely one-sided.
It was pretty bad.
The story that was told.
A 1-6 stretch with no prayer for a playoff game doesn't really give you the backing of having another side at times.
Oh, no. You don't think there's another side to the story?
There probably is another side to the story.
This is, by the way, this is Jaylen Hurts.
Okay, well, here's the deal. So in case people are tuning in and going, what are they talking about? It was right at the end of the show last week. I remember we were doing the crossover with Bob.
Right about done.
And, I was like, Bob, what are you talking about today? He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, I got something for you because it just dropped right before our show ended, so we have not had a chance to react to this yet. But here's Diana Rossini, who's now at The Athletic. She left ESPN. She's with The Athletic now. I think she does a tremendous job. And she had a podcast, and she was talking about the Eagles' situation last season with Nick Sirianni. as we're about to start camp this week. Take a listen to what she said about head coach Nick Sirianni and the disappointing season for the Eagles last year.
It's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personality. Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. Every win felt like a really big feat for them because of the challenges that they were facing in terms of what they were doing on offense. It was Nick Sirianni's show. It was all Nick. Everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
So let me ask him, John. You say it's totally one-sided, but haven't we heard that story 100 times now?
I will tell you this, is that first off, who speaks to, it was 100% Nick Sirianni's offense. I completely cry BS to that.
Okay.
Completely cry BS to that. So Brian Johnson had no input. Nothing at all.
He may not have, and that's a problem.
He had no input. So Brian Johnson did not have a thing to say about it.
This isn't the first time something like this has been reported, John.
100%. He had no say in the offense. I cry BS.
Okay, fine.
And
80%,
I guarantee.
90%.
No, well, then that's not what Diana Rossini said. That's not what she said. What she said is it was 100% Nick Sirianni's offense. We'll ask Adam Schefter on Wednesday.
Yes,
and
we
I
will.
promise you, he will say BS.
Okay.
100%. There's no collaboration. It's all Nick Sirianni. Bull crap. That is absolutely false. And by the way, just poking around this weekend, talking to some people that, have a little more insight into the Eagles than I did, would say 100% false.
Okay.
That one guy dictates anything, and an offensive coordinator has no input, no say, no touch of the design. You hands off you. Now you're going to call the plays, but you're just going to call my plays, and you have no input. Ridiculous.
Okay.
Absolutely absurd.
Well, you cannot believe the report if you want to.
No, I don't believe how it's reported.
Okay, you don't believe how it's reported.
Now, do I believe maybe Sirianni was 70%?
If not higher. Who knows?
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
but
look, all I remember is Jeff McClain talking to Nick Sirianni before the season last year. And Nick Sirianni straight up said, yeah, I mean, we're not changing anything. This offense has worked.
Right, well,
and
that
how many
was-
times has he said that it was his offense?
Well, that was Shane Steichen's offense
he
the year
even would
before.
say, and there are quotes from the past where it was his offense, Shane Steichen just called the plays, which was pretty much what it seemed like was the dynamic last year with Brian Johnson. And that's why you saw the exact same offense for a third year in a row, which to Nick Sirianni, I don't know how you don't think that teams can adapt and watch film and study tape and figure out how to stop an offense that's been on film for 3 years now.
Okay, let's say today Connor Thomas is writing for the Inquirer, and he writes a piece and he goes, there is a serious disconnect between the relationship of Andrew Salciunas and John Kincade. Who has he talked to?
I mean,
You or me?
I love you, John.
He's talked to nobody's talking exactly.
So I'm gonna guess. It's a one-sided conversation.
But you've talked to you or me.
Okay, but we don't know who.
So you think Nick Sirianni gave Diana Rossini a interview and totally skewered himself?
I don't.
I
think
do not.
about that.
I think it's Jaylen.
What I
it
think
could have also been Brian Johnson. I would imagine. Like, why wouldn't Brian Johnson want to say something?
right.
He literally doesn't have an OC job anymore. And look,
He
I don't
doesn't
believe
even
it-
have a. He doesn't even. How about this? He has no fingerprints on the Redskins Commanders offense either.
Okay, and what if he believes before he was the OC of the Eagles, he was getting head coaching interviews, which he did get a few last year as well, and he goes, "Wow, I took a step back because of that offense, because of what Nick Sirianni did to me. I'm going to say something to Diana Rossini." Like, why wouldn't he? I don't think Brian Johnson just was like, "All right, yeah, you're good, Nick. It's all good, bro. I'm going to go to the Commanders,
Okay,
take a
do
step
you-
back in my career."
Do you think Diana Rossini is running with a story
Yes.
where she just takes Brian Johnson's word for it? Because I do not.
Well, unless she talked to Brian Johnson and then sent out a few other flyers. to
He's a
people.
relative nobody in the NFL. He's a nobody.
I mean, he was the offensive coordinator of this team last year.
But
That
he
can't
wasn't.
say he's a
carry his
nobody.
weight.
He's a relative, as I said. He's a relative nobody in the NFL. He is not somebody that is a known commodity.
No, he's not like Dave Canales.
He's not somebody that is a known name. He's a relative nobody. It doesn't mean that he's a nobody. It means that he hasn't built up a reputation.
Okay.
I do not believe for 1 second.
I would say
that
built up-
Diana Rossini is running with the
head
story.
coaching interviews, you have a bit of a reputation.
You are developing a reputation to be known. And there are many, many people who believe the NFL owners, and I've seen it in the past, have used those interviews
it's horrible.
and it's criminal.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That's what they do to get around rules. I'm going to tell you flat out right now is that I don't believe Diana Rossini ran with the story, and Brian Johnson was the source.
Okay.
Could he be one of the sources? Absolutely. Like, no question. Do you check in with him and say, hey, Brian, you want to talk? But this story, he didn't. It's obviously not from Sirianni.
No, of
Because
course
it
not.
skewers Sirianni.
Well, yeah.
And I wonder who would have an agenda to skewer Sirianni. Who would have the agenda?
Anybody that's not here anymore. I mean, it might not even just be Brian Johnson. It could be more people. There might be some respected NFL people that we don't even really know about that are no longer with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know, John. I mean, bottom line is this is what I want to try to figure out today with the audience and with us as a show. You can text and you can call on 610-632-0975. No matter who you think is the source of this discussion, whether it's Jaylen Hurts, Brian Johnson, hell, Gardner Minshew, even though he wasn't here.
He wasn't
last
here,
year.
but he still has an
Maybe it was
opinion.
Marcus Mariota. Maybe he really didn't like the
Yes.
offense. People are still talking. People are still complaining about Nick Sirianni.
They are.
There's no turning back. He's the head coach of this football team. They decided after, 8 days, that he was going to continue being the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles despite the collapse that happened last year. We know the accolades. We know the 3 seasons, all playoff appearances. We know that he got a Super Bowl 2 years ago. But the what have you done for me lately era of sports, we saw last year a collapse that took place over 2 months. And Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, nobody could come up with a freaking answer. And that's why they had that collapse. We're going into another season with Nick Sirianni as the head coach. Are you going to ignore stories like this, or are you going to have Nick Sirianni on the radar all season long? I know I'm the latter. I know I'm going to be taking a look at Nick Sirianni and every single move that he makes during weeks, coaching, the way he's handling training camp, which I like by all reports. They're going to go back to a more old school approach, but that's more so thank you to Vic Fangio for wanting to do that, Kellen Moore for wanting to install his offense. I can't ignore this kind of stuff, but I'm sure there are a lot of Eagles fans that go, I can't have another negative story like this. I just want to watch the Eagles play football.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, too. During the offseason, as fans complain about Sirianni, what we have heard is support of Sirianni, on the record documented, by the following players from last year's offense. Jordan Mailata, Jason Kelsey, who has since retired, Landon Dickerson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Public support of their head coach, very much glowing reports of their head coach. Is there any reason why you think so those players, I don't believe, are Diana Rossini's source for this story of the complaining about it. It comes down to a personal grievance.
Wait.
This is a personal grievance.
You don't think that somebody might say something publicly and then say something different behind
I'm
the
not
scenes?
going to assume that people are lying. I can't do that.
But you're
if
going to
someone says
assume that this is Jaylen Hurts.
Yeah.
I'm not assuming because I've seen 3 different documented opportunities on the record where his voice,
Sure.
where he refused to say something good about his head coach.
Well, I've seen a million documented things where people say something different privately than they do publicly, that they show face to the media, to the public, to a fan base, and then differently they believe something else. It happens in this building. It happens in every
Dude,
building.
I'm not going to assume that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who went out of their way to be publicly supportive of their head coach, I am not going to believe that they did that. And then behind the scenes, they're like, no, he's an idiot.
You're correct. We should not make assumptions either way.
We shouldn't, but we also can't just say that those guys definitely weren't a part of it. I don't know. Like, I'm going to use an example.
Okay.
Much bigger picture than the Philadelphia Eagles. A certain presidential candidate stepped down this weekend.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
By all reports, a lot of people wanted him to step down on that side of the political platform. Is that correct? We all saw those reports?
Yeah.
How many people of the Democratic Party came out in support of President Biden? They may be saying one thing behind the scenes, but they want to obviously say the nice thing on Twitter.
But 34 of them went out publicly and tore him down before he stepped down.
Right, but not everybody did.
No, but
All
they
I'm
did.
saying
No,
is,
but
like,
I'm saying is, but some people literally made their feelings known publicly. They stood up and had an opinion publicly.
Okay.
I'm never going to assume that a player is coming out where they don't have to, and they support their head coach and they go out of their way to say it, that they are, but they're just doing that That's not what they really believe. I don't know those guys well enough to start going, yeah, you heard them say it, but they're probably just doing it to keep the peace.
Right, but you
What I am hearing
also
is-
don't know them enough to say that they are actually in
Yeah, but I'm
belief.
not going to
we don't
assume.
know.
I don't assume the worst of people.
Okay.
I don't assume that people are liars.
That's where you and I are different.
See, I don't assume, and I don't think they're doing it.
I don't trust a damn person.
What I do assume is when somebody personally has a grievance and they will not just do the simple things to try to keep the peace, they're looking to stir the pot. They're looking to stir the pot. They're looking to make someone else uncomfortable.
Well, then why would anybody want Nick Sirianni to be uncomfortable going into training camp?
Because he doesn't like him. And he purposely has over and over again thrown shade at Nick Sirianni. The quarterback of this football team, who is a fantastic quarterback.
Yes.
There should be. Has a grievance with his head coach. And it's obvious. This could all be remedied so easy if he went the route that Connor was suggesting, that you could say one thing and do another. He won't say the one thing either. He's
Well,
just going to.
Let's see what he says in this week or
I can't
next
wait.
week.
I can't
because
wait
he is
to-
going to speak at some point in the next week or so, and we all know what the first question's going to be. And it's going to be about Nick Sirianni. And if it's not the first question, that's criminal, but it better be the second or third question. Like, we know that Nick Sirianni and Jaylen Hurts, the relationship will be asked for both of them. Sirianni will get it too, and Sirianni's going to give some, incredible answer where he doesn't really answer the question, but he'll kind of throw some little things in there. Whereas Jaylen Hurts will be blunt about it. He might laugh at the question. I wouldn't be surprised if he laughed at the question and said, me and coach are fine. I wouldn't be surprised by that. We don't know what the actual truth is. But all I know is we're going into a training camp with a team that we have said last week alone, baseline 11 wins.
Absolutely.
Right? Talent-wise,
I think so.
Baseline 11 wins. Defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. You feel great about what this team can be with those two coordinators, with the talent that this team has. The schedule isn't that hard. There are a couple of tough spots in it, but for the most part, you feel great about the schedule. So I'm sure there are a lot of Eagles fans out there that go, with all these great things, why should I care about what somebody has to say about Nick Sirianni? I believe you should. It's still the head coach of a football team.
I don't believe this report reflects the Eagles locker room.
Okay.
We've had Adam Schefter on the show, on the record, say it. We've had our own Andrew DiCecco, who is in the locker room almost as often as you can be in the locker room, say it. Nick Sirianni didn't lose the locker room. Jeff Kerr was with us from CBS Sports. Nick Sirianni didn't lose the locker room. There was even when things were in the decline, players will always let you know if they don't believe in their head coach, if they don't like him, if they think, they'll let the press know. Subtly, hey, not on the record, but it was exactly the opposite. They had his back. And to me, this is somebody who doesn't have his head coach's back, and I think it's a pretty good theory as to who it is.
And look, I still think it's a problem. Like I do
too.
I think everybody should, who heard that, think this is still a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
and
this
not
is a
just
problem.
ignore it. But I know there are a lot of people that would rather ignore this stuff and just go into the season with the we always talk about it. We joke around green colored glasses. That's also just a way of life, right? You and I talked about this right before the show started. I like being dumb. I like having my head buried in the sand for all things in life. Like I think I'm a happier person because I'm dumb. I think being dumb makes you happier. Trying to pretend like you know what the hell is going on in the world, you know nothing, but you make yourself miserable. So maybe I should just sit back and go, I don't know anything about this Eagles locker room. I know they're a talented football team. Let's go win football games. The problem is because of this job, we do know a little bit more than most, and then you start realizing, okay, this might be an issue.
I said it to you this morning, and that earlier conversation you referred to. I enjoyed life more when I didn't know every thought that was in the head of my family, my friends, and coworkers. When they didn't feel the need to share every thought, every opinion on every single issue that is in their lives and to post it or whatever. And to me, I think this is something here. I believe the vast majority of Eagles players are not anti-Sirianni.
Okay.
I believe the vast majority of players have not given up on their coach, and I think that they're there to work to win. I hope that everybody else falls into line because this team has a chance to do something special, and I believe be in the mix to get to a Super Bowl. I want to see people put their little grievances aside and be professional. It's not a lot to ask. It should not be a lot to ask.
When it comes to Nick Sirianni, are you just going to ignore stories like this? And not just Sirianni. It could be Hurts.
Exactly.
I mean, any negative story about the Philadelphia Eagles, let's face it, there will be more because people are going to start doing some digging. Like this Diana Rossini clip came out on Friday. We are reacting to it on Monday. It's still in the news cycle. It was in the news cycle all weekend long. And anytime I put on The Fanatic, I know it was being talked about. It's being talked about all over the place in Philadelphia. So that means there will be national media members. There will be local media members that will continue to dig to try to find the truth between the relationship with Nick Sirianni, Jaylen Hurts, Nick Sirianni in the locker room, Jaylen Hurts the person. Are you just going to ignore all of it? Or are you like us where we can't really ignore it? I'm sorry, I can't.
And by the way, again, not something the Philly Sports Radio created.
Right.
Something that was dropped into our laps. I like
the
your
Athletic,
attitude. We might need to be dumb on this.
We might just need to be dumb on it. Who knows? 610-632-0975. You can text it. You can call in. Also, Phil's dropped 2-3 to the Pirates. Braves lose games and players.
Oh, my
John
gosh.
has a question about the rest of this regular season that we'll discuss next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. Fanatic. We're reacting to the report from Diana Rossini. My question is whether or not you are just going to bury your head in the sand and ignore it as we've reached the week of training camp, or is this something that you can't help yourself and you're going to be keeping Nick Sirianni on a radar, a supersized radar? That's me. Honestly, I'm going to watch everything that Nick Sirianni does, and that might be a fault of my own. When it comes to real stuff in life, like politics and all kinds of things, I just bury my head in the sand because I have nothing to do with that. I got nothing to say when it comes to that kind of stuff. But when it comes to sports, my passion, my job, and my love for sports and my love for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to look at every single thing closely. And if there might be a beef still between coach and quarterback, and we'll finally hear from the quarterback at some point this week or next, and hopefully that gets squashed. But until then, I'm going to sit here with a supersized, microscope.
Okay.
And pay attention to what Nick Sirianni's doing.
This is
every single thing.
This will not. This doesn't hamper it at all, because I believe Nick Sirianni has strong support amongst the players. Again, I'm not going to assume that the players who chose on their own to speak out in support of their coach, I'm going to choose to believe that they were actually telling what they believe. And I don't think that there is a. In fact, how about this? We've been told on this show that players in the locker room, there's not a huge disconnect in any way, shape, or form with Nick Sirianni. So I'm going to believe this is personal grievance. Diana Rossini gave somebody a anonymous stage, and they ran with it. That's it. Now, to me, I'm not going to assume that people who chose to publicly support him are lying.
Okay.
I don't do that.
Now,
especially people I don't know,
right.
I'm not going to do that.
If it is Hurts, right?
I can't think of who else it could possibly be.
Well, it could be Brian Johnson. It could be, I'm sure, it could be a couple of people. Not everybody spoke publicly about.
Yeah, it could be someone we don't know. It could be an athletic trainer that Nick Sirianni got mad about how he taped up someone's foot one time. That guy's with a different organization. Now he said, we don't know who it is.
I'm going to give Diana Rossini more credit than that, as I think she does outstanding work. I find her to be a really good reporter.
Oh, absolutely.
I enjoy her stuff. That she would not run with. No credible reporter is going to run with an athletic trainer's viewpoint.
John, that's hyperbole.
No, I know, but
My point is we don't know where the report came from.
What I'm going to tell you is that someone like Diana Rossini, and again, we can ask Adam Schefter about this, they're not running with a report from some third source who doesn't have a good connection to the story.
I'm not saying it's not credible, but I'm just saying even if there's only two options, we don't know which of the two options it is.
Well, if Sirianni was the one option, then he chose to go to Diana Rossini and absolutely emasculate himself.
No, Sirianni's not an option. It's negative against Sirianni.
I don't think it's Sirianni.
And I don't believe that you go to the guy who was fired.
Okay, well, you can't just say I don't believe. That's an option, and you're assuming it's the other one the same way that we're assuming stuff.
Connor, I'm going by years and years of experience that I don't believe Diana Rossini would run with the story unless she had real, sort of firsthand. Not secondhand, not thirdhand.
Brian Johnson would be firsthand.
Brian Johnson would be
firsthand.
firsthand.
And I don't believe she's going to run with a piece that just paints Brian Johnson as blameless and nobody else without having a counterpoint of view. I give her so much more credit than that. I believe it came from somebody else, maybe two people. And I think I know who the two people are.
Well, then if it was Jaylen Hurts, why does it?
Because he won't, because he's been purposeful in his desire to throw shade at Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, but then won't he come out blameless too? If you're saying,
I think he pretty much does come out blameless in this report.
Right. So then why does it mean that it's Jaylen Hurts and not Brian Johnson?
No, I think it's the two of them. I think it's the two.
Okay,
of
that's
them.
what we were saying from the very beginning.
No, I believe is that he's getting. This is what I said from the beginning. This is a one-sided assessment.
Yes,
that just slammed Nick Sirianni.
But you were saying last segment that it seems like
I think the primary source is Jaylen Hurts. She may have gotten something from Brian Johnson, but if Brian Johnson wanted to spill his guts and tell Diana Rossini this story, and Jaylen Hurts didn't contribute to it, I'm telling you right now, Diana Rossini would not run with it. She would not run with it. She is a credible journalist. She's a credible journalist.
Right. We're not saying anything about the quality of journalists. We're saying that you're assuming one way. We're assuming the other way. I'm absolutely
assuming that Jaylen Hurts is one of the sources of the story.
Right, and you're
100%,
telling us not to make
99.
assumptions. So we should probably just live in a world where Both things are
No,
possible. We don't pick one as an absolute, and we evaluate it for what it is.
No, your assumption is that people are lying.
No, I said it could be anybody.
We were saying that it could be anybody. People who spoke publicly said one thing and think another.
We're saying there are a lot of possibilities, and we're not choosing one as an absolute.
Who are the possibilities that the data of this story came from?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Jason Kelsey, when he takes a break from his Wawa commercials, for all I know, could have taken 5 minutes to talk to Diana Rossini and say, yeah, Nick's a great guy. That's why I said public things about him. But man, that offense, it could have been anybody. He was the one. Jason Kelsey was pretty honest about his disdain for the tush push that they had to run 17 times a game.
Yeah, he was disappointed in the offense. Absolutely.
Right. So who knows, John? Bottom line is we don't know. But I will say, bottom line is that there is still something there. There is still something with Nick Sirianni. No matter who it is that's talking about Nick Sirianni, somebody is unhappy with what happened last year, and we're hoping that changes this year. But we won't know until they start playing. When Nick Sirianni first announced that Kellen Moore was going to be the offensive coordinator, he was basically forced into coming to terms with him not being the offensive mind anymore, right?
Absolutely.
Remember that press conference? It took Tim McManus had that follow-up question and was like, all right,
Tim had to go, please.
So what's your job? What's your job?
What do you do here?
And he said, to be the head coach of this football team. And then the next press conference, it was, yeah, well, Kellen and I are both going to be mixing in our offensive minds. And then eventually Jaylen Hurts said 95% new. So we don't know what this offense is going to look like until we start watching the games come week 1 when they play the Packers in Brazil. We don't know. So until then, are you paying attention to all these stories, whether they're smear campaigns or if you think they're true? Are you just going to bury your head in the sand, or are you going to watch Nick Sirianni with a close eye? I know I'm going to be watching him with a close eye. I did not want him back to begin with, and the fact that these stories haven't gone away yet does concern me, but I just hope that talent can prevail come week 1.
I am never not watching the Eagles coach closely.
Right.
So it'll be exactly business as normal. But whisper down the lane, whisper campaigns to try to discredit somebody, I'm absolutely going to attempt to say, no, that I'm going to call it what it is. It's BS. And by the way, it's not very professional. And usually it's not adult behavior. That is exactly what I was.
You can text it. You can call in 610-632-0975. We'll get to the text line and the calls in a second. But I also want to open up a Phillies discussion. Phil's dropped 2 of 3 against the Pirates over the weekend. We were so focused on Paul Skeens and whether or not he was going to pitch against the Phils. He didn't. And
How was that terrible baseball team, Connor?
What?
You called the Pirates a terrible baseball team 2 weeks ago. They're not a terrible baseball team. They're a team that could make the postseason.
Yeah. I think Paul Skeens is scared of the Phillies.
You think he talked them? You think?
He threw 1 inning in the All-Star game. All of a sudden, he can't throw.
I tell you, that's an organization where now they never want to pay people, the big thing. But that's a team that if they could just get 1 or 2 more pieces, that's an interesting club.
Yeah, but they're not spenders, which is tough.
Yeah, they're not going to be.
So it's very hard to compete.
They have a lot of young guys, though, that they can control for quite a while.
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, but still, the Phillies, the way that they lost this series, they probably shouldn't have dropped 2 or 3, but nobody should be panicking. And I know
Sanchez should just be so pissed.
Yeah, he should be. I know people will be complaining, and we'll get to that later on in the show, but you texted us something yesterday, John.
Yes.
That I want to talk about because I don't think you're alone. So the magic number is now down 2?
That magic number is 56 this morning.
56 this morning.
Byron Evans, as I would say back in the day.
The Phillies, they win yesterday. The Braves lose yesterday, so that knocks down the magic number 2 spots. 56. Which is amazing.
A magic number on July 22nd as the day dawns. That's ridiculous. And I always just look at it as 28 Braves losses, 28 Phillies wins. The Phillies are going to stumble to 38 wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a really amazing number for the Phillies today. 56. I had a guy saying last night, can't believe you're giving out the magic number. I'm like, dude, just enjoy the freaking year, would you?
Oh, exactly.
Please.
Well,
please.
Are you enjoying the year?
I am.
Because of what you texted us yesterday.
No, I am.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what I'm going to do the next 2 months, but one thing in my head. With this kind of lead and with this kind of look, there is it's just crazy how much the Phillies have put the distance between them and the field.
8.5 game lead over the Atlanta Braves, and they have 4 more wins than the Dodgers.
And again, they're going to enter into the month of August with a magic number in the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And all my head is going to go to is October. And the thing is, I like to enjoy a season. I like to enjoy the fun. This has been so much fun. But in the back of my mind, once I assume, okay, well, they're going to win the division, and they're going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to have a bye, all my mind goes to is worrying about October. I hate to be that fan.
Yeah, but I think
I don't want to be that. But I don't want to be that fan. I want to be the fan that really soaks up August and September. But I got to tell you, that's going to be hard right now because this thing is getting to clown show sort of status.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's human. Now, I'm not at that point. Like, I'm watching a Friday night Phillies game, and Jose Alvarado, blows the save, and I'm,
Oh, I was not happy.
I'm punching the couch.
I was not happy.
And I'm all disappointed. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, they have an 8-game lead over the 8.5 game lead over the Braves, 4-game lead over the Dodgers in terms of the win column.
Is it 4 or 5?
Four wins.
Okay.
4 wins. Dodgers have 59 wins. Phils have 63. And so, in the moment, I'm disappointed, and I'm not going, oh, this is going to kill them come playoff time. I'm also not going, who cares, wake me up come playoff time. Remember, that's what it was for the Eagles in the early 2000s. All those NFC Championship losses, it was, all right, just fast forward through the regular season. We know that you're going to get to the playoffs. Is this going to be the year that you win the NFC Championship game? I mean, you lived that more than we did. We were
it was
young
over and
pups,
over. It was over and over again.
I'm not surprised that I would not be surprised if a lot of Phillies fans that may not be open about it have been like that since opening day.
But this
because of a World Series appearance 2 years ago, an NLCS appearance last year, and an improved roster / a run-it-back roster going into this season, everybody was saying, all right, great start. Wake me up come playoff time. I wouldn't be surprised.
See, I never was that way. What I've been this way is all year long, I've been begging for this, and Connor and I would go back and forth back this from time to time. I was begging for them to put together a regular season where I saw them play to their potential, or maybe even play above their potential. Mm-hmm. This is an incredible run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I never saw it. The last 2 years, I saw them stumble dig themselves a hole and dig out of it.
Right.
This has been such a pleasure.
Absolutely. My thing the past couple years has been I've always believed the talent level of this team is this good. The execution in the regular season hasn't been that good, but exactly where we're at now, you start to turn towards October. I'm kind of where you're at, Johnny.
So you're there too?
I am. There's not much more we're going to learn about this team. The next week is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, the next week we'll learn a lot. Yeah.
But once you have an idea of what this roster is, short of learning how the new players you acquire fit, I'm looking at October too. I'm looking at the rest of the season, like Phillies games, as a round of golf with my buddies. Do I want to win? Yes. Will I be annoyed if I hit a bad shot? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's not really affecting me all that much one way or another because I know where this team's going to be, and I know that there's something bigger to play for later.
See, it's funny. And we'll continue this discussion. We'll get your texts and your calls on all of this coming up next at 610-632-0975. Man, if this ends up being the greatest season of all time, right? Which they could be. If they win over...
Very well could be.
If they win 103-plus games and win the World Series, it could be the greatest season of all time. I would enjoy every second of it. And that's where I'm at. Like, yeah, they dropped 2 or 3 against the Pirates. I was angry both games they lost. But I didn't say this is going to kill them in the playoffs. I also didn't say don't worry about it, wake me up in the playoffs. I'm enjoying every single moment that I can right now.
I just can't.
But I don't think you're alone, John.
No, I can enjoy it, but all I'm thinking about is October right now.
All right, we get your reaction.
I don't want to be that way.
We get your reaction to these topics coming up next. Are you just going to bury your head in the sand when it comes to Nick Sirianni all season long, really? Or are you going to have a close eye on him all season long? And then when it comes to the Phillies, are you at the point where you are saying, wake me up when October comes? It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
Kevin Sullivan is on the line with us. Thanks so much.
this Monday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. All right, our two topics to start the show today. When it comes to the Eagles, Diana Rossini. Let's play it one more time, Connor. Here's Diana Rossini on her podcast on The Athletic talking about a Nick Sirianni story. No matter who it's coming from, there's clearly somebody still talking about Nick Sirianni in the offense last year.
It's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personality. Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. Every win felt like a really big feat for them because of the challenges that they were facing in terms of what they were doing on offense. It was Nick Sirianni's show. It was all Nick. Everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
And so no matter what you believe, it's clearly somebody still talking.
Yep.
And normally, in things other than sports, when it comes to important people, I bury my head in the sand. I go, hey, I have nothing that I can do about this. When it comes to my Philadelphia Eagles, I can't do it.
No, you can't do that.
A lot of Eagles fans do. You know that.
As far as just will bury their head in the sand?
Yeah, sports fans. And I don't blame anybody for doing that. Like, nobody wants to be miserable. Nobody watches sports to be miserable. Now that's what usually the end result is, but I don't think we're sick, twisted individuals that watch the Eagles and Phillies and Sixers and Flyers just to feel pain by the end of the day.
No. There were some people like I honestly I would find something better to do if that's the way I
Right.
If that's the way I consume
you love sports and you love what the ending goal can be and what it can do for you. The Eagles have won one Super Bowl ever, and we're back every single year. It's not because we like pain. No, it's because you want to see that Lombardi trophy being hoisted at some point, no matter how many years it might take again until they win another one. So a lot of people bury their head in the sand when it comes to sports. I don't. So I'm wondering, are people going to do that as training camp begins this week? Also, are you now at the point where it's wake me up when October comes or wake me up when September ends, to steal some lyrics, when it comes to the Phillies? Because the Phillies dropped 2 or 3 against the Pirates, but you look at the magic number, you look at what's going on with Atlanta, they're losing players to injury. Ozzie Albies is going to be out, 8 weeks they're thinking?
He's out for the regular season, is what I was told last night.
That's crazy.
Pretty much figure he could come back the last week of the regular season. That's when he could probably come back. So you could lock
in the NL East.
I mean, it's 56. The magic number is 56. And again, I always just look at a magic number as the team you're chasing, if you're chasing, or the team that's in front of you, or the team that's in front. 28 and 28. If the Phillies win 28, Braves lose 28.
Right.
It's over. Phillies are going to win more than 28 games.
No, they definitely will.
And so the Phillies are not winning 91 this year. So, I mean, this 56 number is ridiculous. It's just a matter of when.
So, are you, like John, where you're
staring
saying
ahead, and I hate to do that.
I know. I don't blame you or anybody who's doing that. I'm just trying to enjoy the maybe best season of all time as much as I can. You can text and call in 610-632-0975. Let's go to the phones. Let's check the text line after that. Let's go to Daryl in the Northeast. Daryl, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, man?
What's up,
what
man?
are you up to, man?
Just driving, trying to get to work. But I guess I'm just a bit not put back, but I don't understand why Jaylen Hurts can't have the opinion to not say anything nice about his boss and it not be seen as unprofessional. He doesn't agree with it. And
okay, so then Daryl, say that.
Come on. If he says that, then there's a storm.
Okay.
He's doing like if your producer was calling for you to do stupid topics.
Hey, Daryl, easy.
and you know that you got a shelf life as a radio host, and they come and ask you, hey, man, you think this guy, or just anyone, this guy's an okay producer, and you don't say anything. You don't say that he's a terrible producer. That's not unprofessional. You can't endorse.
Yeah, but it leads to speculation, Daryl.
Him not saying
Everything is speculation.
Daryl,
guys fight in the locker room all the time. Trust me, I know. I work with players. Guys fight in the locker room all the time.
And Daryl, I've been in NFL locker rooms for years, decades, and I can tell you, I've been around baseball teams. I've been around. It is many times a player will try to keep the peace by just saying something very cursory. They won't go out of their way to be gushing or otherwise that. When you don't give someone the endorsement, you are then opening the door to, well, why do they not like them? Why are they not doing that? and his other teammates have not felt the need to leave it up for grabs.
Okay, but they can do that, and that's okay. But what I'm saying is what Jaylen is doing is not unprofessional. People keep saying it's unprofessional because they would wish that the quarterback and the coach were on the same page. That's what they would wish.
Oh no, we absolutely would wish that.
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah, we want that.
And here's the problem, Darryl. We appreciate the call, man. It's not. I don't know if it's necessarily unprofessional. Maybe that's not the correct.
No, but that's a word
term.
I've used.
I
I've used it, so
understand.
I'll own it.
But bottom line is, you just want to go into a season with no BS.
Yes, I mean this
like
is
as
easy.
little BS as possible, and the two of them could have their opinion about each other. Whether they squash it or not, behind the scenes is up to them. But publicly, just lie to us.
Stop.
I don't care.
Stop creating the drama.
Right, exactly. And that's the problem. And there's drama already going into a season where we have very high expectations. The talent on this roster is great. The two new coordinators are the two of the more highest paid coordinators in the NFL. You have great ownership. You have a great GM. I think you have a great quarterback. I don't know about the head coach, but we'll see about that. But this doesn't solve anything. This doesn't do anything for the team.
Nothing positive.
These reports that come out do nothing positive for the Eagles. I don't think they're going to band together now because this story comes out. No, we're going to speculate. The team will speculate. And I want to get rid of this BS now. All right, we reset the entire show. We continue this discussion coming up next, 610-632-0975. Also, something from the national media that's been a constant opinion. I'll tell you what it is next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this Monday morning. Coming up in about 10 minutes, as we continue, the offseason of reading what people say about the Eagles locally and nationally, and we're finally going to get to training camp. So I'm looking forward to actual reaction from camp and then preseason games, and then we know the marathon starts come September during the regular season. But there's been a couple of constants about the national media and what people are saying about the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll tell you what that is coming up about 7:10, and we'll talk about whether or not we agree with it and whether or not it's a bit of a problem. And it's going to also stem surrounding our conversation about Nick Sirianni. So here's what we're talking about so far to start the show. You can text and you can call in 610-632-0975. The Eagles discussion. Diana Rossini of The Athletic is reporting about the Jaylen Hurts, Nick Sirianni relationship that still needs to be worked on. We have been hearing this thing since the season ended.
Nobody put it to bed.
I was doing midday still. I asked Jeff McClain about the relationship. He said it needed to be nurtured. You and I started doing the show in March together, and the first time we had Jeff McClain on, we asked him again about it. He said it still needed to be nurtured. We asked him one more time. He still said it needed to be nurtured. So and now all of a sudden we're in July, and Diana Rossini is talking about how the relationship is still not necessarily great between quarterback and head coach. I'm not asking about your belief on the relationship. I'm not asking about whether or not you care about the relationship. We already had a caller call in that said, why should we care? Jaylen Hurts can have his opinion about Nick Sirianni. I'm not even having that discussion today. What I'm asking you today at 610-632-0975 is whether or not you are paying attention to it, if you're burying your head in the sand, or if you are going to have a radar on Sirianni. I'm not even asking you about Jaylen Hurts. When it comes to Nick Sirianni, everything about this team we are excited for, correct? We're excited about the offense.
Yes. I'm excited about them being the best team in the NFC East.
Yep.
Which then just gives me dreams of home playoff games, path to a Super Bowl.
And even though the defense is still suspect, you believe in Vic Fangio more than you would Sean Desai or Matt Patricia. It's the OG. He is the tree. He is Vic Fangio, the Vic Fangio tree. It's his tree. All right, he's the damn trunk. He's the guy that's coming in here to now call the defense. What you believe about Nick Sirianni and his offensive mind doesn't really matter anymore because he has taken a step back. He's going to be just the coach of this football team. Kellen Moore is the head coach of the offense. Vic Fangio is the head coach of the defense, and Nick Sirianni is the head coach of the team. We all think Jaylen Hurts is going to have a better season than last year. We think that the Cowboys are going to take a step back. We think the Eagles' schedules, like everything we say about the Eagles, is positive, except one thing, and it's the head coach.
Look good. It looked good. I mean, there's so many positives to point to.
Absolutely.
There's so many things that I just want to see. This team, I want to see this team on the field. I want to hear positive stories. I want to hear this team getting on the same page. And I'm hoping that the new offense coordinator is going to be able to do his thing.
Right.
Be able to cook.
So the question at 610-632-0975 is whether or not you can ignore this stuff with Nick Sirianni. This story has not gone away. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. And I'm going to keep on paying attention to it because I don't really want disconnect between my head coach and quarterback.
Wouldn't be good.
I don't really want that. Everybody gives me Brady and Belichick. Like
they were not feuding.
And
they
by the
were
way,
not feuding.
There was not. They're both goats. Like
there was
nobody. Jaylen Hurts is not a goat, and Nick Sirianni's not a goat.
No,
okay?
they're not.
So they might need to be closer together in order to win. The relationship that was apparently great 3 years ago. I don't know what the hell happened over the last couple of years that led to this kind of disconnect. Maybe it all has to do with Brian Johnson. I don't know. Bottom line is there's still stories going into this season, a season that we're really excited for. So are you going to bury your head in the sand and ignore it, or are you going to keep a close eye on it all season long the way I am, the way that I believe John is? Connor, I want your input on this. Are you burying your head in the sand, or is this something that you can't ignore?
My head is firmly buried.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
good for you. I'm happy for you.
I wouldn't say it totally like that, though, right? I'm much more on that side. But there are other problems that I think are more important to this team. And that might be crazy to say, considering there could be a major rift between quarterback and head coach. But I've worked places before where senior management has not been good.
Okay.
But my boss I deal with every day, I like and I trust. And I'll do my job and interact with them, and I don't have to worry about so much what's coming from higher up. And that can be a positive work environment as well. Ideally, you like everybody at every company.
But here's the one thing, Connor. I know in football, like the coach or the quarterback and quarterback's coach, they're like, tied to the hip.
Yeah.
Same with offensive coordinator. You're not saying hire senior management Jaylen Hurts and Jeffrey Lurie.
Dude, Sirianni's
the head coach of the football team is still the head coach of the football team.
Sure. Is he calling the plays?
No, he's not.
Is he in Jalen Hurts' helmet every game or every play telling him what to do? Or is it Kellen Moore? I don't even think it's I don't like this guy. I think it's a lack of faith in Nick Sirianni's ability to do his job. And I think that is fair considering what we saw last year. That could be right, it could be wrong. We're going to find out somewhat this year, but it's even going to be hard to determine. We've had that conversation. It'll be hard to tell how much of this is Sirianni and how much of it is the new coordinators. So for me,
I'll be able to tell you. If the offense is moving down the field with ease, I'll be able to tell you who
You'll be able to know that,
I'll be able to tell you immediately whether or not it was Nick Sirianni or Kellen Moore's doing.
I got you. My main point is...
The first opportunity for a bubble screen that doesn't become a bubble screen, I'll tell you it's Kellen Moore's offense.
Right, but like whether or not they like each other or trust each other is so far down on the list for me. You might not be able to put a competent
Trust
defense
should
on
be
the
high.
field. Should it?
It should be.
It should be.
It should be. Coach and quarterback, man.
Okay, but it's a coach that doesn't really interact ideally on schematics of the game or anything with it. Like, Jalen Hurts isn't going to be late for meetings. He's not going to not listen.
No, of course not. But do you think Sirianni's going to completely detach himself? I know he's saying he's going to be. But let's face it, Sirianni was the offensive guy the last 3 years. Even when Shane Steichen was calling plays and Brian Johnson was calling plays, Nick Sirianni was with Jalen Hurts all the time. The reporters told us that. He was with them all the time. I don't know if he's going to completely detach himself this year.
In Diana Rossini's piece, she goes on and was talking about the complaints are it was frustrating that there was a run-first offense and that they were too heavily focused on running the ball first. Like, who do you think's complaining about that? Not the best run-blocking offensive line in the NFL. Not the running backs. Who's complaining? Who's complaining? It's either the offense coordinator from last year, who was just calling plays, or the quarterback. It's one of the two,
right?
Because that's what they're complaining about. It wasn't the best run blocking offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah,
they love run. They talk about it all the time. How they're like pigs in slop.
Which this would be a problem if Nick Sirianni was the play caller. But to me, he's obviously he's not, and I trust Kellen Moore. And I trust that they're going to build a relationship between him and Jalen Hurts, and that's built on performance. Right? You could like someone or not like someone. I care about this team winning football games, and with Nick Sirianni not in Jalen Hurts' helmet and not calling the offensive plays, I don't really have time to care whether or not their relationship is in a great place, because last year you had many other issues than the relationship. You just flat out couldn't run an offense. Schematically, it didn't make sense.
It could have stemmed from that.
I think it was a byproduct because where it stemmed from was bubble screen, no blitz protection.
Well,
no
Diana Rossini said even when they were 10-1, every win felt like a feat. So it may have stemmed from that. It may have started between the two of them. And then the report that comes out, I still remember, the day of the playoff game, Tim McManus puts out the story that Jalen Hurts had been telling Sirianni for weeks that he wanted to change the offense. And it was basically falling on deaf ears.
Okay.
And that's relationship more so than the way the offense was built.
The offense has changed.
It has.
So, to me, that's gone. And we'll see if Kellen Moore can get this done. But Nick Sirianni is a minor part of the equation this year to me because of his role with the team.
Well, see,
we're hoping
I can't say I can't say that the head coach is a minor something.
But isn't he?
He's the head coach of the football.
Okay, so what does he do?
We're hoping that.
And you know that he's going to lean offense more than defense because that's his entire background.
Right, but what's the major part of Nick Sirianni's contribution to his team?
I'm going to tell you right now, he has the ability to still say,
this is what I want to do.
Run the ball here, don't throw it. I don't believe for 1 second that he has been absolutely taken to the SPCA and neutered. That if he says it's a 3rd and 2 play and he wants to run the ball and Kellen Moore wants to pass it, I absolutely believe he still has veto power.
Yeah, if he's still the head coach of the football team.
I think you know what? It's absolutely crazy to me would be that if that's the way it came about.
Well, we're in a crazy situation.
We are.
It is.
We are in a crazy situation.
Right. No, you're right, Connor.
So are you ignoring the situation? Are you ignoring stories like this and you just want to go into the season on a high note? Or are you going to have Sirianni on your radar all season long? You can text it. You can call in 610-632-0975. Our other topic, are you at the point where you're saying wake me up when October comes for the Phillies? I'm not. I'm going to enjoy every single second because this could end up being the greatest season of my life, of the franchise's history. And I don't want to miss anything from it. So I'm not there yet. But, John, I do not think that you're alone.
Now, I find my mind wandering, but I'm enjoying
I know you're enjoying it.
I just want to enjoy it, though.
Right.
I don't want to think about October right now. I'm going to channel my inner Ray Dunn. I want to make sure that I'm focused on just enjoying this run. But right now, as I see things get closer to it's inevitable they win the NL East.
Right.
Then all I can think of is, well, what's their seed?
Well, and because of the World Series
what's
and
their
the
seed going to be?
NLCS.
What's their seeding going to be?
Yeah.
I begged for this regular season the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
And I finally got
it. Now you want to get out of it.
And I'm just like, all I can think about is it going to make it different come October?
All right, I'm going to give
I don't want that.
I'm going to give you the constant from the national media about the Eagles in a couple minutes. But let's check out the text line. You can text the show, call the show, 610-632-0975. What do we got, Connor?
Yeah, we have a bunch of people checking in on both the Phils and Eagles topics. Mike from Turnersville says, Jalen's opinion of Nick does not deserve my brainwaves. I put 0 brain cells to that assignment. I think about how the ball will be spread around to all the talent and how Jason Kelsey's replacement will perform, and will the Georgia draft picks live up to their expectations? Things like that have my focus.
Yeah, look, and
I think that's a good focus.
I think it's a good focus. I think you can also, we talked about the offense and how the ball will be spread around. I think you can spread your focus. Like, I don't think we should ignore the fact that there might still be, the week of training camp, a beef between the coach and the quarterback.
No, but
that's my biggest thing. I can focus on all the, what was the texter's name? Did we have the name?
Mike.
I can focus on all that stuff too. I am terrified about what this pass rush might not be able to accomplish this year, right?
And will the young secondary step up enough to make them more effective?
I can focus on those things. Also, I can focus on A.J. Brown, the realization that I had about a month ago now that he might be the greatest Eagles wide receiver ever. You are saying that he might go down as one of the greatest Eagles ever, period.
No
not even that position.
No question.
Like we had this realization about a month ago. Positive. That's a positive. I can focus on so many things at once.
No, but
I can't just completely bury my head in the sand when it comes to coach and quarterback.
Your focus isn't spread evenly, though, right?
No, it never is.
What is more important, I think, is something that's prudent to bring up here. Like, we all like each other. Our relationships are good in this room between the three of us and Brendan and Haley out there. If we had to run an NFL offense and one of us had to play quarterback or line or wide receiver, we'd stink. Liking each other is lower on the totem pole than putting together an offense that actually makes natural sense to run at the NFL
Yeah, but you know what?
level.
All right, so this is where we might be different. I am somebody, even though I try to enjoy the good moments, I am sometimes somebody that will find cracks in the armor. That this is the reason why we might lose. Before I talk about the great things that the Eagles do, I'll go, all right, that's something to have to keep an eye on.
So you see
but
Achilles.
I think I admire that trait.
Like when I watch an Eagles
I think
game,
that trait is a good trait.
I don't have that
we
at
all
all.
have, we all have the notebook when we watch the game, take notes.
I keep
we
my
talk about
notes on
stuff
my
for,
iPad.
for the show and everything. I love writing down, wow, great play by Devontae, right? But if I see something on an initial drive where a wide receiver beat my corner twice, I'm going to go, all right, keep an eye on that for the rest of the game.
Yes.
Not just, wow, great play by Devontae Smith. No, it's, all right, Quinyon Mitchell has gotten beat twice now by this veteran wide receiver that's been in the NFL. Is this going to hurt them as this game goes? Like, that's, I don't know if that's a personality trait. I don't know what that is.
I think it's wise.
So my first thought is not, all right, this is why Jaylen Hurts is going to be better this year. My first thought is, okay, what could cause the Eagles to have another downfall?
It could be smarter. So, like, when you see Achilles in Troy, you're looking at the heel. To me, I see Brad Pitt jacked to the gills that, like, is an unbeatable fighter. And it's dumb. At the end of the day,
he was beatable.
It may be something that costs.
Yeah.
But when I see a lot of other things that feel more important to the football team, I'm going to give more focus to those things than the relationship between the head coach and quarterback.
I want to know where, it's interesting when you say focus, Connor, and you use that word. I'm interested in knowing that my key personnel in my organization is focused on what their job is and not playing cover their ass to not take blame for failures of last year.
Yeah.
I want people to be accountable and say, yeah, I was part of it. I was part of the problem. I was part of that, and understanding they're part of it, instead of trying to whisper behind the scenes going, wasn't me.
Right.
Well,
Wasn't me. It was that guy.
I don't know.
He's to blame.
I don't know those things are mutually exclusive. Not believing in your head coach anymore because of his failures, I don't know that means that if it is indeed like Jaylen Hurts coming out with this, I don't know that means Jaylen Hurts thinks he's blameless.
Well, the thing is, I haven't heard the blame. I mean, it's very easy to take the blame for your part in something.
I understand. I'm talking about the makeup of Jaylen Hurts and everything we've heard about him as a man. I don't believe he could possibly, what we know about him as a person, come out of last year's season and say, oh, well, I was great. I mean, we've heard Darius Slay say that
Darius
on a
Slay
podcast.
has done that.
He may think
Wasn't
that.
me.
I don't believe that Jaylen Hurts is just, in his mind, convinced himself that he wasn't part of the issues with his team last year.
The only moment was in the middle of the season last year when his tune changed. Remember, it was standards to standard to since when is winning not the main thing. That was the only time. But, yeah, I mean, clearly he probably feels like he is part of the reason why the offense didn't work out last year. And I imagine, and we've seen it, photos of him working with his new teammates and his veteran teammates just as of last week on their own, and I think he's taking the lead, and we'll see how he steps up.
By the way, I want to do one thing. I had a trainer email me like a week ago, and I didn't bring it up on the air, saying someone better tell Jaylen if he does have a knee injury or if he's had knee injuries, that squatting that kind of weight probably is not smart
probably not
thing
helping.
to do. Plyometrics would be a much better thing for him and for future health than trying to squat a Volkswagen Rabbit. I think.
Yeah, but you know what? He got to the NFL doing those squats. I'm going to let him keep doing whatever he needs to keep doing.
But remember, what we heard last year is he was injured. He's injured. He was injured. First of all,
I'm going to guess, John, that he was not squatting 600 pounds come week 12 of the season.
I'm going to guess that, too.
I think he's doing that off-season programming. Like, I don't think week 12,
I hope he was.
when he's on the injured list with a sore knee,
but he was talking about it now.
Right.
He says the recovery from the knee issues, if he wants to get his burst back, if he wants to get that, he should be doing the plyometrics, not doing heavy weightlifting and squats like that. That was this guy's suggestion. I said, I have no knowledge of what you speak, so I'm going to take your word for it.
I don't know the last time I squatted.
I said, I'll take your word for it.
All right, so the constant that we're getting from the national media, and I want to know if you guys have noticed this as well. I kind of it hit me this morning. So Fox Sports ranked the NFL rosters, 32-1. The Eagles roster as a whole comes in at number 2.
Number 2, eh?
ESPN did this last week. Not the individual players.
Right.
Roster as a whole came in at number 2. Anytime you talk to somebody about the Eagles, they talk about the talent offensively. The constant that I'm getting out of this is the national media loves the talent on this team. They're suspect about Nick Sirianni, and it seems like they might be suspect about Jaylen Hurts. So they mentioned the blue chips on this team. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, that all sounds pretty good. They didn't say Jaylen Hurts.
Yeah, there's a guy missing from that list.
There's one name they put for wild card. Jaylen Hurts. Then I read the blurb. No mention of Nick Sirianni, but the mentions of Kellen Moore and how this offense is going to step back up, and they hope that Kellen Moore will bring them back to where they were 2 years ago. Is this I'm confused by what we should think about this team sometimes. I agree that they are one of the most talented teams in football. They're only behind the San Francisco 49ers. I think they're 1A, 1B, honestly, in terms of overall talent. But the head coach, he's not Kyle Shanahan. Jaylen Hurts is better than Brock Purdy, in my opinion. But it always seems like they're very talented, but. Am I wrong in that realization?
No, I don't. I'm surprised you're seeing it as a negative.
Well, that's what they said about him last year.
Yeah, I got you. I'm surprised you're seeing it as a negative.
It's just the one constant I keep on getting from Fox Sports, ESPN, CBS. CBS ranked Nick Sirianni the 16th head coach in the NFL. 16th.
They must have called Jaylen.
But they probably have the roster at 2.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But I think it'll all play out in their favor.
I sure hope so. All right, we'll continue the discussion. We'll get more of your reaction on the phones and the text line, 610-632-0975. And I want to ask about Phillies fans and the mental state that we're in right now. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Training camp starts tomorrow. I'm Connor Thomas in this update.
Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic on this Monday morning. Talking a lot of Eagles today, mixing in the Phillies as well. Are you saying wake me up in October? You're just kind of cruising the rest of the way here, or are you still watching every single game the way I would be? I know you are too, John. It's just
listen, it's the idea. It's not. Are you watching? It's how you're watching.
Right. Absolutely.
I find myself. My mind wanders constantly. Like on Friday night, a bad outing by Alvarado, terrible outing.
Mm-hmm.
It gets me thinking. Okay, we got trade deadline in 9 days at the time. Now it's 8 days. Trade deadline. Do you trust Alvarado?
Right, for the playoffs.
Do you need another high leverage back end of the bullpen arm? Like, that's what I'm doing. Everything is about October. It's not about right now, the moment to me.
Right. So I'd love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. You can text and call on the Eagles discussion that we're having. Nick Sirianni, another report from Diana Rossini that the relationship between Hurts and Sirianni isn't great, that the offense last year was 100% Nick Sirianni's. We didn't necessarily love the offense last year. Are you just going to ignore those talking points? Or, as Connor said, we had the texter Mike earlier, where Mike said, that's so low on my level of concerns or low level of what I'm paying attention to that you're almost just going to completely ignore it? Or are you like me where you almost look for the things that could hurt the team? And it's not because I'm a Negadelphian. It's how can we fix this?
Yeah, you're looking at the vulnerabilities.
Right. And I want it to be fixed. Like, if there's a Sirianni Hurts beef, remember a couple of weeks ago when we last had this conversation at the end of OTAs, I remember Tyrone was on the best show ever saying, why are you even worrying about this? It's June. Well, I'd rather it get squashed in June than wait till September.
And now it's late July, and it's still an issue.
Right. Training camp starts this week.
And it's still an issue.
So I want it squashed now. Yeah. That's why I make such a big deal out of it, because it's a negative thing. The positive things will be there. A.J. Brown's still going to be a freaking stud, right? No matter what the issues are between Sirianni and Jaylen Hurts, A.J. Brown is still going to be very good. But do these issues with Sirianni and Hurts lead to maybe issues in game, lead to issues inside the locker room? I don't know. And I'd rather just be everybody's happy. Like, that's all I want. I don't think I'm asking for much.
Or not to know if everybody's happy.
Or not to know. That would be nice, too. Because as I said earlier today, sometimes it's smarter to be dumb. 610-632-0975. What do we have on the text line there, Connor? We'll get back to the phones as well.
We got a bunch of stuff here. So a lot of people are checking in on this, and a lot of people are in the position where they're not too worried about it.
Okay.
Derek from North Philly says, I'm watching the whole team because he's looking at a situation where last year the whole roster had issues top to bottom, whether it was execution on offense, defensive talent. You're going to be looking at it. The best thing about the Birds, the team will learn the offense and defense at the same time, so there's enough to focus on there.
Okay. So
that is a very optimistic view. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
But it sounds that's a little too sugar-coated optimistic for me. Because we have no idea how they're going to learn the offenses and defenses, how well they're going to learn them, how quickly they're going to learn them.
Right, and is Sirianni
It might take till October.
Is Sirianni going to sit back and watch it, or is he going to be hands-on?
Well, I don't know. I want him to be hands-off.
The same, but that's like...
Yeah, that's
we know,
a lot.
We know the deal, and like he's not going to be hands off.
You know he's
the
not
head coach of the football team. Like he's not going to be hands off. He's not going to be sitting on a beach chair.
We've heard
on the sideline watching everything unfold.
He's not going to be a grown man sitting in a room playing video games till all hours of the night.
No
offense,
hey,
Andrew.
easy. Temple,
no offense, Andrew.
Temple needs to win.
Trying to
bring
him back to the promised land
in college football. No, but my thing is, like, we've heard Jaylen Hurts say 95% new offense. We've heard that Nick Sirianni has taken a step back in responsibilities. Like, I don't know. We expect him to be hands-on because that's what we assume with a head coach. What we're about to see, I brought it up months ago, guys. We're going to see one of the most unique head coach-coordinator relationships in the NFL that we may have ever seen. A guy that just flat out is not going to have the responsibilities of a head coach. That's what I believe we're seeing. And that could be a much more hands-off approach than we could ever imagine.
What NFL team that's ever won the Super Bowl has the head coach just been like, oh, he didn't really do anything?
Nobody.
I know.
Nobody.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right, and that's why I didn't want him back, because I don't think this is going to work to the level that you need it to.
I didn't want him back either, but what I'm trying to say is, like, you're talking about how it's Kellen Moore. He's the head coach of the offense, and he's going to be doing everything with the offense. You don't think Nick Sirianni's going to have any sort of involvement?
Of course he is.
He'll be somewhat involved.
Dude, he's going to be more than somewhat involved. He's going to be extremely involved. It's going to be Kellen Moore's offense and his play calling, but you know that Sirianni's going to be a part. Sirianni sets up the entire practice schedule. Sirianni does everything.
Okay, so he writes the schedule. Like I don't know. Rob Thompson used to set up spring training for the Yankees. It doesn't mean he was coaching the team.
And what I'm saying to you here, Connor, is it's 3rd and 2 in the third quarter of a 17-17 game. Kellen Moore calls a pass play, and Nick Sirianni goes, "No, I want you to run it."
Okay,
He's still the head
and the
coach.
word is going to be Nick Sirianni's going to have the hammer.
Which is fine, because if Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator we believe he is, that run play should work.
Okay,
and that pass play should work.
yes.
And the offense should be talented enough. Like, yeah, I'm not expecting Nick Sirianni to do nothing, but I'm living in a world where he matters substantially less to this team than Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And that's why I'm more focused on other
Now,
issues.
I'll say this. Brian Johnson was the play caller last year. There were times where Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni had this exact same scenario that you're talking about. Where
Yes.
Brian Johnson wanted to run a pass play, but Nick Sirianni wanted a run play.
Sure.
Again, it's Nick Sirianni's word. That's the final word. Jaylen Hurts, if there's a legit beef between him and Nick Sirianni, he probably didn't like the decisions that Sirianni was making. That's not going to just go away.
Right, but if it works, like, that's the thing. This all is
It worked to 10-1 last year.
No, it didn't, Andrew.
They were
no,
t-
it
they were-
didn't.
they
They
were
were
10
winning. They were winning football games barely in struggling offense and struggling defense.
Yeah, and the
that
locker
we
room
saw.
told you that when Jeff McClain's saying they're the most miserable 10-1 locker room.
Right.
And Diana Rossini in a report in July all of a sudden. I mean, the season's been over for a while now. In July, he's talking about how every single win felt like a feat because
Exactly.
that relation. So you're going to ignore the relationship that's still not great?
I promise you, it's not the relationship. It's the fact that they were running the same stupid plays every 3 downs. You have people on national broadcast calling out their plays. I'm not going to like somebody if they don't do their job.
Hey, you know
either.
what's strange is that when the plays were called, like when you had a chance to win a game in Seattle, you had your quarterback
Okay.
decide to
one
go.
time.
One
It
instance
cost a game.
late in the
It
season.
cost them a game.
He also won them the Chiefs game doing it.
But that was in the Chiefs game. He had options. In that situation, there was a play call. 2 guys were schemed wide open.
Right.
And instead, he chucks it down the middle of the field and gets intercepted that cost them the game. And that did not go over well.
No, it didn't, and that's fine. But he lost faith in what was being called for him. So as the quarterback of the team, he probably thought, hey, I'm going to do what I think is right because somebody needs to save us.
Wow.
And it's not the right way to handle it, but it took to,
No.
what was that, week 12?
Yeah, it was a critical moment.
So one play, 3 months into the season, he finally decides.
At that point,
like,
that was I think that set the tailspin in motion. That one game, if they win the Seattle game, do you think they go and lose to the Cardinals and lose to the Giants? I do not.
I don't know,
I do
man.
not. I think it was a tailspin.
listen, you play a tight game against Drew Lock, I'm going to
Look, I was about to say, even if, let's say they just made the stop against Drew Lock, the offense still did nothing that day.
Yeah, the offense was not good.
The offense did, I mean, it took Drew Lock to go down the field 90 yards in like 35 seconds just picking apart James Bradbury. I don't think James Bradbury all of a sudden would have been the all-pro that he was the previous year the next week. Like, I don't know what this team would have done had they won that Seattle game. I get it. Winning cures everything, right? That's what they say, even though they were a miserable 10-1 football team. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Sean on the cell. Sean, you're on 97.5, The Fanatic.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Hi,
What's up,
Sean.
Andrew, go View, man. Go View.
Go View, brother.
All right, so here's about Kellen Moore. I'm not here to bash the Eagles. I'm not an Eagles fan, but we need the truth about Kellen Moore, okay? He was our offensive coordinator in Dallas. His biggest weakness is he wants to score every play. He wants to put 40 points a game. So he's not good time man. I mean, all clock management.
Weren't they one of the best rushing offenses in Dallas?
Hold on. He wants to score, though, on every play, though, okay?
Sean,
so the defense is out there more often.
To your
And then
point,
that-
Sean, in Dallas, his 4 years calling plays, Sean's making a good point here.
Okay.
In his 4 years of calling plays, the Dallas Cowboys averaged 21st in time of possession.
Okay.
Right. And the defense is out there more often, which means getting tired. So that means every game is a shootout. You might score 40 points a game, sometimes blow a team out, right? But at the end of the day, he wants to score first play. Like,
Yeah, he likes to. It's a very aggressive offense, which is not something that we're really used to here.
Right.
And sometimes he tries to get fancy with a trick play at the wrong time. So getting the easy couple yards, he tries to pull out of his hat and then it won't work. I loved Kellen. I thought he was awesome, offensive guru. But when it was a big game and it came down to it, his whole game plan was, I want to score every play.
And you're not the first Cowboys fan that's called in with that, Sean. We appreciate the call. But I'm also going to put some of the blame on Dak Prescott. Even before Kellen Moore and post Kellen Moore, we've talked about Dak Prescott's shortcomings in the playoffs, right? And maybe part of it is Kellen Moore. Maybe Kellen Moore's learned. It's like they can learn.
It's the one part of he had a bad year time of possession last year in L.A. too.
Okay.
5 years calling plays. That to me, and I had this for another day that we could use it another day. That's the one thing on his record that I would give him an F for.
Well, is that
an F? 5 years, the data is clear. He doesn't average. He never averages in the top. If you throw in last year, he averages 23rd.
Well, yeah, but
in time of possession in his 5 years as an offense coordinator.
How could you necessarily call that a bad thing? I would say
the defenses, we saw it in Chip Kelly. Defenses suffer when they are thrown out on the field for too much
Absolutely.
time.
But if his play calling's so good that they score quickly.
Okay, well, you're ready. I mean,
what are you going to do?
He said it to you, though.
Use the entire play clock before calling a snap?
But it is an idea of do you value? There's a way to run clock. There's
Absolutely.
a way to. He does not do that well. That is his one F.
Okay.
That of all the things that I am Kellen Moored up, as you know. That is the one thing I would say on his resume. That's an F.
F's a little harsh if he's bottom. He's not 32nd.
He's in the bottom third of the
he's
league.
Not 32nd. I mean, come on. I was bottom third in a lot of my classes, John.
Well, I'm not commenting on your academic record.
C's get degrees. Like I can't go F.
Well, it is not. I'm just telling you, as positive as I am on Kellen Moore, that is something that bothers me about his resume.
Okay.
Is that because this defense does not need to be on the field a ton.
Right.
This
you don't
defense,
want them to be on the field a ton.
This is the perfect year, and you went and got Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Use him in the running game and try to burn some clock.
And maybe he learns that. I mean, like
maybe
you can learn.
He's 0 for 5 on that. Could this be the year that he learns it? Maybe.
All right, we continue the conversation. You can text in, call in 610-632-0975. We hit the text line heavy coming up next. When it comes to the Phillies, are you in Wake Me Up when it's October mode? And for the Eagles, are you just burying your head in the sand? I don't want to say that in terms of it being harsh. I bury my head in the sand for a lot of things in life. I'm just asking, are you ignoring the negative stories that come out about Nick Sirianni, the latest coming from Diana Rossini on Friday, right at the end of this show, so we didn't get a chance to react to it? Or are you like me and you can't ignore it? We continue the discussion next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
There's nothing.
morning, Philadelphia. 97.5, The Fanatic. Still to come. We got a lot to take care of. We have today's headlines with Connor Thomas at 8:05. Following that, I know that this will go to fun discussions the rest of the show. Joel Embiid said something insane, but maybe accurate. I don't know. We're going to lead to debate about that, what Joel Embiid had to say. You'll hear from the big man coming up at 8:10. I saw an interesting list from Ruben Frank of NBC Sports Philadelphia, his 10 observations from this offseason. We'll go through a couple of them, but the number one observation is something about Jaylen Hurts in the first 12 games of the season and then the last quarter of the season, how much of a different quarterback he is in the last quarter of it. So still a lot to come your way on Kincade Salciunas. And, of course, our main topics today that we would love to get your reaction on, whether it's the phone line or the text line or social media. You can text or call 610-632-0975. Diana Rossini on Friday talking about Nick Sirianni and how it was his offense. 100% of the offense was his. She talked about the disconnect between Jaylen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Guess who are both still here at Lincoln Financial Field at NovaCare for the Philadelphia Eagles? Both of them. Right? That disconnect that is still going on late July. Training camp starts this Wednesday.
Okay.
It's still going on. Are you going to ignore it? Are there other issues that you're more focused on? Or are you like me, where you look at probably the number one thing that could lead to a downfall for the Eagles? That's something that I just do because I would like to try to fix that. Right? It's not like we do this for a living, right? We talk sports for a living. Or what can we get better at? My first thing is, what can I get better at? Not, wow, I had a great show today. Because nobody's going to have a perfect 4-hour show. Connor does sometimes.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, he's pitched 3 perfect shows.
But we could have 3 hours of great radio, but you mix in a couple of segments that you go, I wish I could have done better at that. I'd rather focus on what I could do better at, what I can fix. I would rather the Eagles fix some of their issues than just go, hey, A.J. Brown's really good.
Okay, but if you did I'm not a math guy, however many segments we do over the course of a 4-hour program. And
4 times 3.
12. Nice. And 90% of those were bad. And then you were worried about something that wasn't directly affecting the content as much as some other stuff. That's the thing. It's a hierarchy of where you need to rank this relationship between a quarterback and a head coach who has taken a major step back in responsibility.
I just wonder why, again, and I'll just point it out again, Nick Sirianni has never, 0 times, thrown his quarterback under the bus.
Yeah.
He has consistently always had his back. Even when there were opportunities for him to do so, he's covered for him.
Right.
I don't understand why he would not receive the grace in return.
Well, I've worked with people that have been very nice to me that I believe were not good enough to do the job they were in.
Wow, thanks, dude.
Okay, so when you screwed up, when you were doing bad, at the work, this person who you don't think was very good at their job publicly took the blame for you. That's the only correlation here.
Yeah,
Nick Sirianni stood behind microphones and took blame for something A.J. Brown later took us behind the curtain. That was the fault of Jaylen Hurts and A.J. Brown.
Right.
And he literally got clowned for it for a week until A.J. cleared the air. So I've seen Nick Sirianni do nothing but fall on grenades
which is
for
fair.
people. But he cannot receive the same grace in return. To me, that is a problem, and that is a character issue. That is a problem. If someone has your back and someone covers for you and someone takes the blame for you, and then you have the opportunity to do the same and return it, and you don't,
I mean, listen.
that tells me
he
that
might
tells- how
finally
about
this week.
It tells me all I need to know about your character.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
You know
it
everything
doesn't.
about
No.
Jaylen Hurts.
I'm telling you right now, if someone does that, it tells me all I need to know, because they're always going to be a person who's going,
see, we're getting into Johnny
and
Black and White again.
Yeah,
There's
guess what?
so much gray
and
area.
you can, but you don't seem to want to acknowledge that part. Is that Nick Sirianni has never thrown gasoline on this fire.
I'm acknowledging
He
that.
has never
That's fine.
done anything to create any discord.
Well,
Where we've seen,
Yeah, but I can't sit here and say I know everything about Jaylen Hurts' character because he didn't have
I'm
the
gonna
back
tell
of
you.
his head
I'm going
coach.
to tell you this: if I watch people that operate like that, I do know everything I need to know
Yeah,
about.
but John,
No.
how many Eagles fans do you think
but-
have the back of Jaylen Hurts
Dude,
and are happy with
wait a minute.
him not having
Let's
the
get
back of Sirianni?
Get something straight here. Get something straight here, though, for this. just because that's not your barometer doesn't mean it's not mine.
Right, but it's an unfair barometer, so it's my job to tell
just
you
because you tell me
that's insane.
that's not true.
John,
that's not true.
You could watch him help an old lady across the street.
Right,
you could watch him be great with his teammates. You could watch him work hard in the weight room. But because he hasn't publicly said, I like my head coach because he defended him, his character is in question.
When I watch, that is absolutely a character barometer for me in any walk of life. That if I see someone that is given grace by others that refuses to give grace to them, Connor, I don't care if you think it's insane or not.
Okay.
That is absolutely a character barometer for me.
Okay.
Because it's really easy to be kind.
It is.
It is very easy. You have to go out of your way to not be kind.
So every person has to be kind in every instance.
You know what? I thankfully have been blessed to know a lot of people who go out of their way, and when they don't, they will acknowledge it and go, yeah, that was a bad on me.
Okay.
That was bad on me.
They will acknowledge it after the fact.
And never, and then there are others who will never acknowledge it.
Okay, and Jaylen Hurts may still acknowledge it.
He might. We'll find out this week. All right, real quick, let's check the text line before we get to today's headlines with Connor Thomas in about 10 minutes.
Okay, no name on this text. I promise it is not a burner phone of mine. I do not have the money to afford a second phone line. But this texter says, Connor is 100%. It's not a big deal at all to me. I don't want to focus on it over other more important issues facing this team, the defense, learning the new offense, like that.
Now, when two different sources this week have evaluated like the entire league and said you're the second most talented roster in football.
Right.
By the way, I'm shocked at that.
I'm not shocked.
I am. With all the questions on defense, I am shocked.
I kind of am.
Their pass rush is not in any way to me intimidating,
absolutely
imposing.
Right. You know, the league.
Top six would be cool.
I'm shocked that
everyone
that
looks
too.
offense first.
So to me, if you say they're a top offense, like a thick man,
Fox Sports and ESPN both have them number 2 entire roster.
That floored me, and I purposely didn't read it.
Yeah.
Didn't go to it and run to it to say what's the answer.
I'll read you what the blurb is next before we get to today's headlines.
I am completely surprised by that.
Because a lot of people think very highly about this Eagles roster. But the one wild card they mention is Jaylen Hurts, and there's no mention of Nick Sirianni during the blurb. So what does that tell you? Like, they think the roster's great, but there's two things that could really hold them back. And I wonder if also it's the relationship between coach and quarterback that a lot of people just wanted to just ignore at this point. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 8 o'clock hour coming your way next. Today's headlines at 8:05, and at 8:10, you got to hear it. Joel Embiid says something insane. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Bills take the series ender. I'm Connor Thomas. This update.
camp week. Honestly, it's time to turn it up a notch. Whether you go to work or you work from home, it's time to turn it up a notch. Training camp starts this week. No more fooling around. All right, it's football season, damn it.
Get to work.
All right, coming up in about 5 minutes, we have today's headlines with Connor Thomas. At 8:10, you are going to hear something insane, but I really do want to talk about it. I don't want to just poo-poo it. I'm excited to have this conversation. Something that Joel Embiid said over the weekend that was wild, and I'm glad that you found the audio because I read the story over the weekend, but I didn't hear the audio. You found it, John, so credit to you, and we'll play that for you at 8:10. But real quick, I want to read this for you. Fox Sports ranked their top, their 32 rosters. And the Eagles came in at number 2, just like how on ESPN, the Eagles came in at number 2. That's with the defense being as concerning as it might be.
I'm going to tell you, I'm completely floored by that. I would never have guessed it to be any higher than 5, 6. I can't believe that they're 2.
But you know what's amazing? So they're 2. Now, again, this is roster. But Jaylen Hurts, 13th on the ESPN,
right,
quarterback list, voted on by coaches, executives, and scouts.
So they get the second best roster in the NFL with the 13th best quarterback.
And last week,
that doesn't make sense to me.
Remember, Colin Cowherd did his top 10 coach quarterback duos. They weren't even an honorable mention. Sirianni and Hurts. CBS Sports ranked their coaches, won the 32. Sirianni came in at 16. It's weird. There's a very, very talented roster with questions surrounding the quarterback and I think low feelings toward the head coach.
It doesn't
sound about right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from the national media. This isn't what I'm basing it off of ESPN, CBS, NFL.com, Fox Sports, what we have read, all these lists that we've gone through, because we're in list season right now until training camp starts on Wednesday. All these lists, the Eagles are very high up.
How could your roster be second in the NFL and your quarterback be 13th?
Well, the other 52 players better be damn good.
They better be. So
and I got to tell you, I don't believe it.
Here's what they said in the analysis, in the little blurb before we get to today's headlines. General Manager Howie Roseman is a wheeler and dealer with a knack for swiping blue-chip talents from his competitors. Saquon Barkley's arrival after his bitter departure from the Giants should give the Eagles a highly motivated running back to add to a lineup loaded with explosive playmakers on the perimeter, including A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. If the offensive line continues to dominate opponents behind the stellar play from Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata on the edges, the Eagles could control the game with Jaylen Hurts and company, utilizing various run-pass option concepts to keep defenders guessing at the line. With the Eagles poised to light up scoreboards with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore at the controls, the disruptive defensive front line featuring Jalen Carter and Bryce Huff could overwhelm quarterbacks forced to chase points from the pocket. As one of the few teams in the league without a glaring weakness, the Eagles should be in position to vie for the NFC's number 1 seed down the stretch.
Without a glaring weakness. Wait a minute.
Where's the disclaimer where they forgot linebacker?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What about
exactly?
I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a glaring weakness, but a major question mark. Like the Riddler jumped in the room.
Yeah, linebacker's a major question.
Linebacker's a major question mark. I think the pass rush has a giant question mark on it.
I think Bryce Huff grades out well in a lot of PFF stuff.
Wow.
That they might say he will. I think a lot of people are buying in. A lot of
his stats were garbage time.
I think they're buying into Bryce Huff being a full-time player. That's my read on all these people that talk about Bryce Huff. I just need to see it first. I
need to see it.
You know how I feel about Hassan Reddick. I am talking about them as a Super Bowl team. If Hassan Reddick is still on this team with Bryce Huff playing, obviously if Reddick play under his contract, and look what's happening in New York.
To me, if Reddick, and again, it's driving me crazy.
If he's here, we're talking Super Bowl.
Seeing what the 49ers are doing, saying, oh, no, you're playing on your contract, and you're going to be part of a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl. And the fact that the Eagles fished and cut bait.
So,
I don't understand.
Look, people think highly of this team. And as we should. The question is, do the coach and quarterback, that dynamic, get in the way at some point? We'd love to hear from you. You can text and call in 610-632-0975. You'll hear some insane stuff from Joel Embiid in about 5 minutes, but it's time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What up, Connor?
You're going to hear some insane stuff from me right now.
Well, that's typical.
So, a couple people, a group of people, had themselves a weekend down the shore. Apparently, they spotted from the beach a boat within swimming distance with one Brandon Graham.
Oh, I thought you were
going
to say I was doing something stupid on the beach.
No,
'cause
not you.
I'm pretty sure I did, but go ahead.
Well, this was night in Venice.
Well, I wasn't down there, and I haven't had any reports of that. Maybe it'll be on tomorrow's. But no, Brandon Graham was in a boat like just off the beach.
Yep.
People were swimming out to shake his hand from the water. There's some audio. Crossing Broad posted a video on Twitter. So here's what you could hear from it. A nice Eagles chant from down the shore.
Hey, 2018.
Oh my gosh.
I love it, man. Like, Brandon Graham will forever be a hero in the city.
Yeah.
Right?
The smile will be
dude.
legendary
His
forever.
story's amazing, considering, how we reacted when he was first drafted. Right? Just from the very beginning, it was Donovan McNabb-esque,
Yeah,
where
we
we all
wanted
wanted
Earl
a
Thomas.
different. We wanted a different player. We wanted Ricky Williams. We wanted Earl Thomas. But the difference between 5 and BG, even though 5 was tremendous, Brandon Graham kind of just let it go, and he is now tight with this city.
So, oh my gosh, tight with this city. I
Whereas
think
McNabb, McNabb still takes shots any chance he can get.
I think tight with this city underestimates.
Yeah, you're
it.
right.
I mean, he's mayoral.
I still remember the NFL films when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, whatever they call it. I forget what that's. They
Like
call
the yearbook or
the yearbook.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Brandon Graham was talking about the parade, and he was like, I really realized how truly special the Eagles were when a man came up to me, because Brandon Graham was off the float. He was walking around. A guy just hugged him and started crying and thanked him. He's like, that's when I realized how special the Eagles are to Philadelphia.
Yeah, my question was going to be, like, what's the craziest, or have you ever done a crazy thing to meet an athlete? Like, before you were in this life, do you ever go to a signing? Like, these people are swimming out into the bay just for a
nothing
chance
like that.
No, never? Johnny?
I would think, no. No. I can't remember ever. I met Dave Schultz once at the Colonial Village Market in Newtown Square when I was a kid.
Did you go to see him?
Went to see him.
Okay, so you went to see him.
We ran into Mike Schmidt at the liquor store in Newtown Square, and he wasn't very gracious.
Did you
when
know
I was
he
a little
was there?
boy?
Like,
No, he was like, I turned the corner. My mom, I was with her. I turned the corner at the liquor store, and there's Mike Schmidt.
Right.
And as a little boy, he was not very gracious.
hey, man.
So
he wanted his beer.
I've never forgotten that either.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done anything crazy. Like, I remember, I didn't watch Greg Lazinski play, but I remember going to a Phillies game. Remember Bulls Barbecue? He was there that day. So, like, I waited in line to get an autograph from a guy I never watched play.
Yeah.
You know
But
what
your
I mean?
dad,
Like,
your dad gave you an affection for him, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And so maybe that had something to do with it. But I never, not swimming out into the bay, which I think is awesome, by the way. Like, I
No,
give
it's
that
great.
kid a lot of credit for doing that. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I may have jumped into Allen Iverson's suite at a Sixers game
What?
to try and meet him one time, but that's a story for a different time. We move on.
That's like stalker stuff.
It was, oh man. Speaking of the Open, that's some crazy stuff as well. Xander Schauffele gets the win out there. Here was his interview, a human moment that I think we can all relate to, what he wants to do after winning.
How special is it to get your hands on this famous trophy, the Claret Jug?
I just can't wait to drink out of it.
What's going to be the tipple of choice?
My dad's here with me, so I'm going to let him do the honor, whatever he wants.
I love that. That would be my first thought, too, is
Would you-
I can't wait.
Would you ever want to do that?
What, drink out of a championship trophy? Yeah, hell yeah.
I did. Claret Jug.
You drank out of the Claret Jug?
Yes, because it was very, very kind. There was a winner of the Claret Jug, a man who is quite a very talented golfer, who was the official. He was the what would you call it? A commissioner of our golf event, of our golf event every year, our charity golf event for 20 years. Stuart Sink. And Stuart Sink won the British Open. Went to New York Prime, and they told everybody, select group, come to New York Prime, and everybody got to drink out.
That's
of the Claret.
awesome.
Absolutely one of the greatest things ever.
I don't think I'd drink out of it if everyone was drinking out of it.
Dude,
I got
not?
a
Are you
weird
kidding
thing with
me?
drinks. You
Would
know
you?
this about me.
you do have that.
Like Stanley Cup, you wouldn't?
Nah, I'm drinking first. Obviously,
Really?
If somebody
John,
goes first, you
obviously
wouldn't
in my-
go second.
No. Obviously, in my wildest dreams, if I'm on a Stanley Cup winning team,
You're drinking out of the cup.
I'm the captain,
Right.
And I'm drinking out of it first. In my
okay.
in my
Oh,
dream,
you're the
I'm
captain.
the
Oh,
role
captain,
player.
you're right.
It's my
You're
cup.
right. Yeah, Stewart brought it to a proprietorship.
Yeah.
Went to and literally was a like, come be there if you want to see the claret jug. Come on by, have a cocktail. And they were drinking out of the
Well,
cup.
as a three-time champion of the Philadelphia Amateur Baseball League with the Turtles, I got to drink out of the championship trophy 3 different times.
That's dope.
It was the same trophy every year. It was like green at the bottom.
Oh, that's disgusting.
That's disgusting.
But you still did it, dude.
No.
You did it, man.
I
You know,
drank out of
That's
the-
what us winners do. All I know is I said a winning
They're a
culture.
jug,
That's what
I
we
would-
do.
My
Yeah.
softball league all-star game MVP trophy I drank out of.
Yeah, see,
And
there you go. My MVP trophy.
We won the GPA, highest GPA for my fraternity in college.
Nice.
And then we drank out of that.
Congratulations.
Okay, that's good then.
Yeah. All right, last one here.
I like it when geeks have fun. It is fun. It is good.
Come on. Last thing here, we're going to get into something, a question you asked about the Phillies, Andrew.
Are you at the point where you're saying wake me up when October comes for the Phillies?
And I know John feels that way. That's why we're having the conversation.
It's getting there, yeah.
And you know what? I'm kind of there too. But my question, as my question with a lot of things in life is, why can't we do both? Like for me,
We can.
I can still enjoy this season, I think, to the level of what I want to for how great this team is. At the end of the day, mentally, like I know October right now is probably my focus, right? I'm thinking about
Yes.
how do they seed? How do they set up? How does everyone get there healthy? But on any given night, I can suspend that during the 3 hours or so the game is on.
I think if the Phils were 8.5 back of the Braves, you would be saying, don't worry, just wake me up in October.
Absolutely.
I think you would be. I think we're having so
You
much.
mean if they were in the Braves position where Braves are 4 up on a wild card?
Right.
4 up on the wild card, but they're out of the
Because
division
Connor
race.
would say what we said before the season started. Well, I've already seen them win despite being so far back of the Braves. I think because they've been so good this year, it is fun to watch the Phillies. Every night is a fun not even 3 hours some nights. Like it is a fun time watching Phillies baseball. So I think that might be where Connor's coming from in terms of you can do both.
I literally, though, hate this is such a great regular season that I hate the fact that I'm starting to go, okay, now this is pretty much the drama's being taken out of it.
Right, but with great seasons, how often is there drama in the regular season?
Well,
by the way,
there's a lot of great seasons that are pennant race seasons. That you're in a pennant race. The reason it's a great season is because you're playing great.
Right, but
you're jockeying.
Let's not act like 4 games is a huge margin. That's all they have ahead of the Dodgers.
Yeah, but you see, I'm not.
If you want the 1 seed or if you want the bye, it's 6 games ahead of the Brewers.
Well, I'm not in the least bit worried about losing the bye.
Okay.
The Dodgers, I think, is going to get interesting because you do have 3 at the Dodgers.
Right.
So you're going to have to go to the Dodgers, and you're just going to have to, honestly, if you go in like that, you're just going to have to avoid being swept.
And they're
Just
going
go
to
in
get
there and take
healthier
it.
too, so
Yeah, they
they
are.
could go on a run. My thing is and this goes back to the ethos of who you are as a sports person. I will take the blowout over the close game every time, as long as my team wins. I'd rather win 100-0 than 21-20
You
in
really
a football
would.
game. Yeah, absolutely. I want the Philadelphia Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers to beat the brakes off of every team they ever played for the rest of the world, never lose again, ruin everybody else's time.
Yeah, I enjoy watching like a 4-3 game, a 5-4 game. I enjoy watching more than a 10-1 game.
Yeah, we had that conversation
Every
about
time.
the Dodgers series.
Like every
the other
time.
day.
I'd much rather watch where there's a little bit of drama and you're watching your team because I don't learn anything in a 10-1 game.
Well,
I don't
you
learn
learn
anything.
that your bats can go off.
I don't learn anything in the 8. Yeah, but I don't learn anything. Just like I didn't learn anything in the 18-3 game.
When they lost to the A's. Yeah.
I just write it off as it's 1 of 162.
Right.
I want to learn something. And I know that that's something that Bob would always talk about is he would want to take something away from every game.
Mm-hmm.
And even in an 18-3 game, you could go, hey, that one kid you threw in there in relief didn't look terrible.
Right.
Or whatever.
All right, we'll continue this discussion on the Phillies. Or are you kind of at that moment of wake me up in October? And then when it comes to the Sirianni and Hurts latest from Diana Rossini last Friday, right at the end of this show, our first chance to react to it, where she's talking about how the offense was 100% Nick Sirianni's. There's still disconnect between the two of them, which, oh my God, training camp starts this week. Do you bury your head in the sand and ignore that stuff, or are you like me where it's going to be on your radar, it's going to be almost top of mind pretty much all training camp, or until Jaylen Hurts just kind of squashes it, even if it's a lie, during his first press
And
conference.
I certainly hope that he does that.
I hope so too. Please, trust
Please
me.
put it to bed.
I would rather not talk about this stuff.
Put it to bed.
But we have to because it's legit.
Yes.
610-632-0975. Now, we're going to open up something else.
Uh-oh.
I saw it this weekend. You sent it to us. You found the audio this morning, so thank you for doing that. Joel Embiid, obviously playing with Team USA. They're out doing the Olympics. And Embiid was asked a question about whether or not he could, like, injuries may have hampered his career, which, let's face it, they have. I mean, we alone saw how much it affected him against the Knicks, and he still put up ridiculous numbers, right? Averaged 33 a game in that series. Averaged, I think, 9 rebounds a game, but we've seen the games where he only had 1 rebound in the entire second half of the game. Like, clearly, his injuries have hampered his playoff success, and he probably would have won MVP this year had he qualified. And he obviously came nowhere close to qualifying, but he was leading the league in scoring by far.
Okay.
Take a listen to this answer that Joel Embiid gives.
I think so. I think I'm that talented. I didn't stop believing it probably until I say my 4th or 5th year in the league, where I had the opportunity to accomplish something special. And for that, obviously, you need to win championships. And to win championships, you need other guys. You need help. You can't do it by yourself. It's just impossible. So that's why, I want to win so bad. But then again, if you don't, you just got to understand, as long as you worry about the right stuff, and if it doesn't happen, then I guess maybe it wasn't meant to happen. If you think about it, the thing that has stopped me all these years is, just freak injuries. Every single playoffs, regular season, people falling on my knee, or someone breaking my face twice. It's always about freak injuries at the wrong time. I really believe that.
Okay, he was asked, the question he's answering, do you think you could have been the GOAT, the best of all time?
The greatest of all time.
Man, I'm trying to be dumb there.
He didn't say no.
No. In fact, he tried to make a case that the only reason is because of freak injuries. I watched LeBron James come into this league. I watched Michael Jordan come into this league, their entire careers, and from day one have a fierce desire to be the best. Kobe Bryant, to be the best from the beginning of their careers to the end. I didn't see that out of Joel Embiid.
I think you're insane to say that.
Well, I didn't.
Every single year, Joel Embiid has added a new element to his game. Just because he doesn't do the Kobe grin and the jersey tug.
It's not what I'm speaking of. From the beginning of his career, did Joel Embiid come in with the eye of the tiger to be the greatest player in the game? Did he come in with the proper conditioning, the proper work ethic, the proper attitude to be the best player in the game? No. Don't compare him to LeBron. Don't compare him to Michael Jordan. Don't compare him to Kobe. But with the professionalism and that attitude to just knock everybody down. Do I believe he has it now? Absolutely.
Okay.
No questions asked. But that's held him back from ever being in that conversation. And no one has him in that conversation.
No, I think, honestly, injuries is the number one thing that would keep him from the conversation. Forget his will to win. The guy is what he does is historic.
I think he's got
Once again, there was the stat earlier this year where hasn't been done since Wilt Chamberlain. There was also a game where Wilt Chamberlain never did this. And people say Wilt Chamberlain, there are people that still say Wilt Chamberlain's the best player of all time. Right? Better than Michael. Right,
I can't speak to it.
But Embiid did stuff that Wilt Chamberlain didn't do.
Okay.
I don't think Joel Embiid's the greatest of all time.
I don't think anyone in NBA circles even has him in the conversation.
And I don't think if he was fully healthy his entire career that it would be a lock. But it's an interesting conversation, and it's total bar room. I feel like I need to have a beer in my hand to even have this discussion right now. But if that guy remained healthy, never had a single injury, he'd be in the conversation, John.
Okay. And there were things that other than injuries, that keep him out of that conversation. Exactly what I said to you. From the day they arrived in the NBA, the guys who are in the conversation for greatest of all time, GOATs, from the day they arrived, they had the attitude, the professionalism, and the work ethic to try to chase that goal down. Joel did not. Not even close. So, that's why he can't even have him in the conversation.
But if he averages, let's say he's the league leader in scoring for 8 straight seasons, and he doesn't have that attitude coming out of college, does that really matter?
If I think of GOATs, are we saying if we're just for this debate, Gretzky,
Jordan,
Tiger Woods, if you ever said to everybody, and you put Joel Embiid on the graphic, everybody would go, who doesn't belong? Joel Embiid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't
people would say that. And I don't think
it's not because of injuries.
I think that's a big.
No, I think it's a big part that's held him. Statistically, it's what held him back.
Yeah.
But there are other things that held him back, too.
We'll continue this discussion coming up next. I would love to get Connor's thoughts on this and yours as well. You can text and call on 610-632-0975. Joel Embiid says if injuries didn't hamper his career still to this point,
he could be the GOAT.
He would be considered the GOAT.
Wow.
It's insane, but it's worth discussing. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. 97.5 The Fanatic. I hope you're having a safe trip into work on this Monday morning. All right, I want to get some reaction to Joel Embiid saying that injuries are the reason why he's not in the GOAT conversation. And I feel bad for him. Remember No. I wasn't with you yet.
Okay.
When I did a show, and I was just like, dude, I feel bad for him from a mental, my first thought was mentally, how is he handling this? It was when Kuminga fell on his knee, and I'm like, dude, this guy's balling out. He's having the best season of his career after just winning the MVP last year, and it's another freak injury. It's a 6'6", 250-pound dude. It's not Embiid's injury prone. It's this gigantic behemoth of a man fell on his knee, and it goes in the opposite direction. He talks about, in that clip, the 2 fractured orbital bones. I didn't know what an orbital bone was until Joel Embiid had it fractured, and it's happened twice. It's wild that every single year it's some sort of freak injury. And I don't think it's lack of conditioning. I don't think it's bad physique, even though I know that was a question 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
The gastroenteritis, that was his own doing. He had the poops.
Yes.
That was his own doing. But, the last 5 or 6 injuries that he has missed time with, it's been freakish stuff.
I got no problem with his
that sucks.
Work ethic, conditioning, anything like that in the recent past. Not a problem at all.
Okay, and
to be the GOATs of all time, give me one of them that didn't come to the league with the attitude, the eye of the tiger, the work ethic, the push, the drive. He didn't have that. He didn't have that for a long time.
How do you know that?
Because his own just his conditioning being a problem. His attention to detail of his own career being a problem. Him having to be sent home from a road trip because he's not doing what he's being asked to do.
Attention to detail in his game was pretty impressive. That's why he's gotten better every single year.
I didn't say.
No, I get
the beginning of his the first 3 years of his career. You think he was that he did the things to say he's coming into the league to be the GOAT? No. No, come on, Andrew.
He also came into the league after having the injury that kept him out of his career for the first 2 years. Remember, there was a lot of stuff that happened outside of basketball for him. His brother dying, him not living at home. I don't know how long it was until he saw his family. That's a lot of stuff that he had to go through in the beginning parts of his career. And was immaturity a factor? Absolutely was. It was. He was 22 when he started playing basketball. I was doing a lot of worse stuff at 22.
Make this clear, though. You aren't defending this, right? You know that nobody considers him even in the.
That's why I said it's insane.
It is insane. So just call it what it is. It's insane.
I just don't think you're.
Why is he talking? Why is he even doing that?
He was asked about it.
No, but
why is the question?
But why is he even? No, but then he says, "Yeah, I think I absolutely."
Because he holds himself to a high standard. And by the way, the last 3, if he doesn't get hurt last year, he's probably a back-to-back MVP winner. And that means 4 years in a row, he's a 1 or 2 in MVP voting.
This is also Embiid. He has grown up, but at the, genesis of who he
Joel
is, deep down,
Embiid.
It's not even trolling, but, he used to tell people how he used to, wrestle lions and stuff like that. You remember?
Yeah. He said he killed a lion.
Yeah, exactly, with his bare hands. This is a dude that he does have that little, we'll call it the Connor gene, where it's just maybe you want to over-talk yourself up a little bit. And that's what I think he's doing here. Talent-wise, I think there is an argument to be said that Joel Embiid may be the most talented basketball player we've seen. He could be. But the GOAT conversation goes into so much more than that. Championships is weighted. We had the argument about whether or not he's a winner, right? I can't weight championships overly high in that because there are so many great players that haven't won one.
Right, like Charles Barkley. We always use as an example.
When we talk about GOAT, you have to win a lot of championships consistently. You have to set all-time records. Longevity is a thing. He was never going to be in the GOAT conversation because, one, he did not come over young enough. He did not start playing this.
He didn't start playing until he was 22.
He doesn't have a long enough peak.
Yeah, that's why I literally say it's insane that he said that. But it's an interesting conversation because you can say, all right, is he the greatest skilled center of all time?
That I'd say yes to.
Maybe.
And more importantly, I would never, just toning, this is a conversation he's better off not engaging in. Go, that's for somebody else to determine if I should be in that conversation. He most certainly isn't. but he should not leave that up to somebody else.
Right. And look, this is why I said I feel like I need to have a beer
because he isn't
during the discussion because this is such
that's certifiably nuts.
This is such a barroom discussion. But
oh my gosh!
Hey, listen, man, good for him to have that confidence.
I don't know what barroom in America would ever even
buddy.
believe
dude,
this.
Johnny.
No, you must not be at a bar recently.
Would believe this conversation.
Yeah, this conversation. John, I had an argument with my buddies like 2 weekends ago that I could swim across the Delaware River underneath the Ben Franklin Bridge, and they're like, "You drown," and I'd say, "No way, I'm a great swimmer." Like there's
been dumber
conversations. Yeah.
Usually though, the dumb conversations are at the bar and don't involve the person it's about.
Yeah.
Hey, good for him. He's standing on business.
Yeah, it's great.
Good for him. What? Oh, I thought you liked confidence.
Confidence?
Yeah, that's confidence.
No, I like confidence backed up by something.
All right, and he might back it up this year. His career's not over yet.
Yeah, well, the GOAT is done. That conversation's over.
What if he wins 6 straight NBA Finals?
Uh-huh. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And 6 straight MVP.
Okay.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah, what if?
And then all of a sudden he will be in that conversation.
If?
Why not us?
All right.
Oh, my gosh.
What do we have on the text line, Connor? You can text the show. You can call the show 610-632-0975. We got a bunch of stuff on the table for you today. The big one about the Eagles and whether or not you're going to ignore the still beef between Jaylen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. His latest is Friday, reported by Diana Rossini. We'll play that for you again later on this hour. But what do we have on the text line, Connor?
Yeah, we have people checking in on that Jaylen Hurts, Nick Sirianni thing here.
Okay.
Eddie from Camden asks, is there a chance we're mistaking stoic Hurts for angry or antisocial Hurts? Are we evaluating his moods the correct way when it comes to this?
I don't think anyone knows. I really don't. Like, I remember Ray Dunn saying
he's Great Ray now?
He's Great Ray.
Right in front of another producer?
Yep.
Okay.
People saying, he said last year, we celebrated how stoic he was when they were winning, but we're ripping how stoic he is when he's losing. That might just be his face on the sideline, winning or losing. And it might not be him being stoic.
He might just have RBF.
You think being stoic is saying, yeah, I don't know what he does.
No, I'm not saying I know.
I mean, that's not stoic.
I'm not saying he is stoic. I don't know Jaylen Hurts.
I don't think he's stoic.
I've never sat down with Jaylen Hurts and talked to him. I can only base off of what has been reported about him and what I have heard from him in press conferences. But at the same time, how many times have you said take press conferences with a grain of salt because he's from the Nick Saban school of press conferences? So what is he actually saying things that he truly means? Is he just doing Hallmark quotes? Like, I don't know.
Nick Saban never would be the Nick Saban training school. He wouldn't have done anything to cast any aspersions on Nick Sirianni.
Right. Okay.
He would have found something positive to say and moved off it quickly.
Well, he moved off it quickly. He just missed the positive.
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't.
Well, that's not the Nick Saban school.
He also didn't cast aspersions, though. He didn't say, like, oh, Nick Sirianni's not a good head coach. Oh, it was on the head coach last year.
I think by simply not answering a question and diverting from it, you absolutely call that into question.
No,
you could call it into question.
Exactly.
But Jaylen Hurts will say, wow, you're making too much of a quote. I didn't understand the question. Remember, they came out pretty quickly that somebody reported like the next day. Like, it might have been Jeff McClain. Somebody reached out to the Eagles for further comment, and they said he did not understand the question. Like that. That's how quickly they were able to put that out there.
That was the SWAT team coming in to try to clean up the crime scene.
Absolutely.
That was what it was. He understood the question. He understood exactly the question.
Well, you don't know
Especially after he passed over twice, giving any kind of verbal support to his coach, where Jeff McClain had to say to him, yeah, your coach is on the hot. Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know it, man.
I've never heard that.
Well, because he doesn't pay attention.
Sure he doesn't.
Because he just focuses on football.
He knows exactly what's being said. It's exactly why he says, why is winning? I thought winning was the only thing. It didn't matter.
Is there a chance he's a robot? Like, the guy I think about is Kawhi Leonard. And I'm just like, you would have never believed the stuff about Kawhi Leonard. But then the more you find out about him, the more you're like,
was that supposed to be the Kawhi laugh?
That was creepy, man. Silence of the Lambs, Kawhi.
But my point is, some of these dudes are just weird. Like,
I don't consider Jaylen. I've interviewed Jaylen. I do not consider him. I never walked away when he was a college kid, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
But a one-on-one type of situation, I didn't walk away. I walked away saying, "Man, the guy's polished."
And I don't mean,
and he's buttoned up. He's buttoned up like he knows exactly what he wants to say and how he wants to say.
I want to go to T Love here because T Love, I think, So far, in the 91 shows of Kincade and Salciunas, would you agree that T-Love has been the biggest Hurts defender?
He's one of them, and I always like his insights.
I do,
Don't
too.
always agree, but I do like his insights.
But through 91 shows,
He's the biggest
I
Hurts
think, like,
defender.
if we did who's Jaylen Hurts' biggest fan, right now, T-Love is my vote. What's up, brother?
Yeah, hey, what's up? I'm an Eagles fan, first of all.
I know you.
As we all are.
Yes.
I'm diehard. And my problem is, okay, let me just, I had to really calm myself down. I love you, man. I love you. But when you start talking about a guy's character based on your opinion, you know what I mean? That's some heavy stuff, man. I mean, you laying down something real.
No, what I'm going to say, T-Love, I'm going to say to you is that I see what you're to me, when someone shows you grace, this is a bottom line with me. When someone shows you grace constantly, and then when they need your grace, you don't give it back, that absolutely makes me question your character.
Okay.
And I don't think that's crazy, and I think most people are like me in that regard.
All right, let me flip that now. You know, I've called before.
Sure.
And I've said,
absolutely.
I think this is a kind of a bougie show sometimes, and it goes in that direction. You know what I mean? But I also know that you can be very judgmental about your own opinion, and you really push that.
Guilty as charged.
I don't look at that as being a character flaw by you, and I don't know you, so there's nowhere in the world I would even make a comment about your character being on how judgmental you are.
I will say this, though, T-Love. I take offense to you calling this a bougie show when I am probably the least bougiest person you'd ever meet.
No, Salciunas on a bougie scale would be very, very low.
Vacation? Oh, well, I went to the homeland, brother.
He'd be very
Come on,
low.
man.
T-Love, I get you 100%.
Thanks for the call,
But
man.
it's to me, I absolutely, and I make no apologies for it. When I watch somebody that constantly, if you're in need of grace and you accept it, and then you won't give it out, that's a major character flaw with me. Whether you agree with me or not, I'm telling you that's just where it is, and I have no apologies for it.
Bougie.
Kincade and Bougie Tunis.
I talk about my Wendy's breakfast burrito every Thursday as if I'm talking about a T-bone steak at the finest restaurant.
Because it was free breakfast.
Damn right, and it's freaking delicious.
Yes.
You know, I'm a simple man here.
You have like $1.98 sunglasses.
Yeah, that's about right. $2 from my local Ace Hardware store. Yeah, that's about right. They look like Ray-Bans, though. All right, coming up next, and I'm not afraid to hide it. Coming up next, we continue this conversation. More of your reaction. You can text and you can call in 610-632-0975. And I can't wait. 9 o'clock, Ruben Frank from NBC Sports Philadelphia. I'm going to read you his 10 observations he's made during this offseason and what he thinks about Jaylen Hurts. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Kincade and Salciunas, weekday morning 6 to 10. Conversations that will make you think are here. 97.5 The
In Major League Baseball, and I know I would say 85% of Phillies fans will have the exact same reaction as I did, and I know that because Connor walked in and when I told him the news, had the exact same reaction. John is my witness. The Atlanta Braves are signing Whit Merrifield. So Ozzie Albies is out for 2 months. John said probably the rest of the regular season.
Yeah, they're looking for
fractured hand. It was yesterday.
Wrist.
Yeah, fractured wrist.
He's trying to tag out a guy stealing.
Yep.
And when you see it, you go, ouch.
And obviously they were already out Strider the whole year. Ronald Acuna Jr. is banged up. So Ozzie Albies is out, starting second baseman of that team. So they signed Whit Merrifield. And my first reaction, Connor's as well, was, oh, he's going to hit like 300 or hit like 350 for that team.
You both had the same reaction.
Yeah.
Because he's a good baseball player. He was horrible here. I don't think Whit, unless he's just done. Like, he could just be done. There's a chance. I mean, that happens. The Father Time's undefeated, right? Like, there's a chance that he could just be done. But he's had a great baseball career. So, do I still think he's got some ability?
Oh, he's shown flashes, absolutely.
His whole career was a flash.
As I said, I was reaching out to a source down south, and the summation was no downside since the Phillies are paying his salary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's no downside at all.
And they're desperate because they lose Ozzie Albies. So, it's a great move for them.
He'll most likely be looked at as a depth piece, pinch running, something like that, because they're bringing up a star prospect to take the spot of Albies. And then they'll decide what they want to do.
Yeah, and then we'll see what they end up doing.
So he'll be there, and
he'll be there. And watch, he'll hit 350.
It is funny that you say that.
And it's going to drive us absolutely crazy. All right, Connor, what do we have on the text line? You can text in, call in 610-632-0975, and we'll play the Diana Rossini clip again in a minute. But what do we got coming in?
Yeah, so since we just had some Phillies news, we have a bunch of people checking in on the way they're consuming this Phillies season. No name on this one, but this texter says, I think you walk a tightrope because you don't want to be seen as a complainer, but I think it's a mistake to poo-poo their poor performances. They need to keep their foot on the gas just because they're so far ahead of Atlanta. I don't want them playing poorly heading into the playoffs, so I'm still able to focus on the here and now ahead of October.
That's going to be the interesting thing to do. And again, this is another down-the-road conversation, which it's not time to have it yet because, again, you're still fighting for those top seeds if you value the bye as much as some teams might.
And I think they do.
But when do you start giving guys off days? Remember, that's been a thing in baseball for a while now is do you let guys take a couple days off or do you keep on playing your starters every single day? Because you know what the deal is with baseball. Once you miss a week, it's sometimes hard to get right back in the swing of things.
Well, you know what's funny is that's how the Braves have spun it.
Right.
You know, there have been public complaints about, man, this isn't, we had to sit around for a week.
They tried doing the simulated game.
They even brought fans into the game
to
come to the workouts
yeah.
and watch it. After the second year,
that's good because they only got 2 home playoff games.
Right. And it didn't work well. But the one thing I would say is this. The Astros have twice had the bye, have twice advanced. So it's like I think it's an excuse. I think you're looking for an excuse if you're saying the week off. You know what I mean?
But no, not just the week
teams,
off.
Though,
I'm saying in September, before the playoffs start, let's say you have 20 games left. How many games is Bryce Harper playing?
Right.
Is he playing 19, or is he playing 12, or is he playing less?
I would hope he's playing 17.
You would hope, but I don't know how teams will handle that.
I would hope JT Realmuto is playing 12.
Are you going to skip a start for Wheeler or Nola or Suarez or Sanchez in that final 2 weeks of the season?
Yes.
Are you going to bring up when you can expand the roster? What 40? I forget when that is.
I don't think it's that much anymore. Do they let you go to 40?
Maybe it's like 28.
No,
28. All right,
they don't let you go too far.
Are you going to bring
anymore.
up 2 starters that are going to skip Wheeler and Nola?
I think you go. Well, it depends. Well, first off, I think Rob Thompson this time will navigate Wheeler the way Wheeler and him will collaborate on how to navigate it. So he doesn't hear any complaining about
Even though 2 years
the
ago,
way things go.
Yeah, why would they collaborate?
Well. Yeah, and he doesn't because he didn't like the plan. It ended up working.
And he was dominant in the playoffs, so he ended up working out great.
Yeah, and then Cooper probably doesn't like to eat vegetables, but you're not going to collaborate on what he gets for dinner.
And the World Series, he didn't like the plan, which had to be worked out and massaged. But both of them handled it like gentlemen and moved on and fixed it up. I want to know I don't know does Nolan need rest? I don't know.
I'm not going to start freaking out about his last.
If that goes to what does he need? They're in great position. And by the time they enter August, this magic number should be in the 40s, which is unheard of.
Right. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
All right. What else do we have on the text line, Connor?
Yeah, our buddy Miz checks in on the text line from Northeast and says, I'm at the point with the Phillies that I'm just waiting for the playoffs now. And that's more so because of the fans and their overreactions at times. They're all but guaranteed a spot at this point. I just want everyone to stay as healthy as possible, get to the playoffs, and play their best ball.
I don't think that's unfair.
No, but he's just ready for the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Miz is one of millions at this point. But
you're missing out on something great. I don't like my mind wandering all the time to October. Every single night at some point while I'm watching this team.
Right.
All I'm thinking about is October. I watch a guy who has been highly effective at times and has been erratic for a few weeks in Jose Alvarado.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch him pitch the other night, and all I can think of is, do they need to go get somebody to?
Well, and look, the trade deadline. You're not making trades for the month of August.
No, this team's making them for October.
Right, exactly.
The Braves may make a trade for now.
Right.
Other teams may make a trade for the Mets. Might not be sellers now. They may be because they're in the wild card.
It's hard to not think about the playoffs because look, Dave Dombrowski has to. Like that's his job right now is to think. How can I make this team the best that it can possibly be for the playoffs? And he sees the same stuff that Jose Alvarado's going through as you are.
Yeah, but 21 hours of the day I do that. And three hours during the game. Hours of the day, I don't care about September, October, November. You can invent a new month after December. I care about what the Phillies are doing for 3 hours, and I don't think about playoffs. I don't think about matchups. I just enjoy watching them play. I separate those things. I don't know that everyone can, but I do.
As you're saying, you're not going to freak out over Nola's last start. April 2.06 ERA. May 2.84 ERA. Since then, June and July, a 4.42 ERA. It's 8 starts. It's not. He's doubled in 8 starts. It's not one start. It's a trend, and hopefully he can get that turned around.
That would be great.
They need it.
That would be great. 3, 4, 5. Before yesterday, 5 straight quality starts.
I don't like that stat, but that's okay.
In a regular season, man,
a 4.5 ERA is not quality.
Regular season, you're going to take it. All right, coming up next, we reset the show. We'll play the Diana Rossini clip that started this Eagles discussion today. And also, Reuben Frank's observations during the offseason. One of them about Jaylen Hurts that I do want to bring to your attention. It's Kincade Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic.
Fanatic. I hope you had a safe trip into work today. Let's have a good week. It's training camp week. Wednesday, day one of practice. Tomorrow they report. We will hear from Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio this week. And it's crazy, John. I moved to mornings. Now all of a sudden press conferences happen in the morning.
Yeah, we're getting some morning stuff.
I brought the press conferences with me.
You just you don't have to. The breaking news usually Tyrone has got an embargo on them.
Yeah, he's got connections.
They do that. He makes sure that they do that. Maybe it's NBC Sports Philadelphia. Tyrone.
Yeah. Easy. We got Paul George.
I was not here.
Well, that's on you. But we got Paul George. That broke at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it broke at 4 a.m.
Oh, okay.
On the way in, which was fun.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so you had that.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right, but we got press conferences.
Your luggage was lost.
My luggage, yeah,
it was all right.
I don't need to relive that.
There we go.
All right, so coming up in a few minutes, I saw something on NBC Sports Philadelphia that I want to run through. Reuben Frank did 10 observations during the offseason. It's all kinds of stuff like stats and this player could reach this status, that player could reach this status. But there was one about Jaylen Hurts and the final quarter of season since he's been the starter and how it's a little alarming. And there's a reason why. It's not because he says Jaylen Hurts stinks. There's something to be alarmed about that we will have to keep an eye on.
Okay.
And it's not rocket science once you hear it, but the difference in numbers are kind of concerning. But we'll do that in a couple of minutes. I just want to reset the show. We opened things up reacting to Diana Rossini. So she has her podcast for The Athletic, and this dropped on Friday, right at the end of the show. So we didn't get a chance to react to it. But here's Diana Rossini of The Athletic talking about the relationship between Jaylen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and Sirianni's involvement with the offense last season.
It's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personality. Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. Every win felt like a really big feat for them because of the challenges that they were facing in terms of what they were doing on offense. It was Nick Sirianni's show. It was all Nick. Everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
So this goes back
What's the music about?
What the hell is that? It did make it a little bit more dramatic. This goes back to reports that Jeff McClain has had about the relationship needing to be nurtured. This goes back to the Tim McManus article that came out the day of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff game where Jaylen Hurts wanted a different direction of the offense for weeks, and it fell on deaf ears. So that could be where this was Nick Sirianni's offense, right? Like, we don't know exactly. Was it Nick Sirianni 100% of his offense?
Well, no. She says she reported
She reported it,
100%. That is BS.
Okay.
No one is at their offense 100%.
But maybe Brian Johnson wanted to have some input and do some different things, and maybe Sirianni said no.
I absolutely
maybe
believe that could have
Hurts
happened.
Wanted to do certain things, and Nick Sirianni said no.
I totally
to the
believe
point
that
where
could have
Nick Sirianni, before last year, told the world, yeah, we're going to keep running the same offense. We're just going to try to improve it because it hasn't been stopped yet. That's dumb.
Invite Nick to poker night. Invite Nick Sirianni to your poker night.
What, if you want to win?
I think you're going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're
if you want to win some money because he's telling you exactly what's going on.
He's telling you what's going to happen.
And then he'll do the whole bull. Call myself.
There you go.
He'll do the whole competitive advantage stuff.
Yes.
But he'll tell the world that we're going to run the same offense for a third straight year.
Until someone shows us they can stop us.
What? What is that? Like, that's dumb.
Yeah,
and that's why I didn't want him back, because you had 2 months to try to figure out something, and your answer was another bubble screen on 3rd and long. Like, that's horrible. Whether that's Sirianni calling the play or Brian Johnson calling the play, the offense was a mess. And I got to hear from Diana Rossini on July 19th when it was Friday, and here we are Monday morning, the 22nd, finally getting a chance to react to it, talking about how the relationship still needs to be worked on between the two of them. They have had months to do that. Months. And I know that they're not always together, or maybe they can't be together. I don't know what the rules are during the offseason.
And they can't be.
But a quick Nick can't send a text message.
Well, they can do that.
Hey, Jaylen, looking forward to this season. Let's squash what we've been
They're
doing.
sharing video and stuff. They're sharing video.
Like, that
and all
stuff
that
couldn't
kind
have
of
been
stuff.
fixed between the two, or at least worked on. Like, why is it still being worked on going into training camp? And I know people are saying it's still early. I would rather this be squashed now.
I would rather we never even knew about it.
Yeah, me too.
Would have been simple. It would have been simple to avoid.
Hey, ignorance is bliss. That's what we're going back to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty much.
It would have been wonderful to not have to have passive-aggressive stuff. It would be wonderful to do that.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. So our question today for you at 610-632-0975, text line, phone line open. Have a text ready for us, Connor. When it comes to this Sirianni and Jaylen Hurts disconnect, are you ignoring this story, or are you ignoring any story really surrounding Nick Sirianni? Because I think we all agree that that's maybe the biggest question mark still. Obviously, linebacker's a question.
No, linebacker, pass rush. Will the young corners be able to?
So you think Sirianni's going to be fine?
I think Sirianni's going to be just fine.
I
really do. I think
you're
this
the one guy on the show that won him back. Me and Connor weren't,
and that is the truth. But it wasn't that I was having a ringing endorsement that I wanted him back. I looked at it and said, I am not firing a coach who made the playoffs 3 of 3 years. I'm just not doing that. Okay. That would be absolutely unheard of in the NFL. I believe it's never happened.
Yeah, and the Eagles
so
agree.
To me, is that there would be.
They kept him.
And I think this team, I truly believe this team's going to have a great year.
And I think the reason why I say question mark, I, like you, believe this team has a great year.
A great year.
I think if they fall short of expectations, I'm not saying Super Bowl, I'm saying 12 wins.
Sure.
They finish with 9 wins.
And 12 is around where we're saying. Their over-under's 10.5.
Yeah.
To bet.
So, but if they finish 9-8 or worse, I don't think that's because of linebackers. I think it's because there would be issues inside the locker room. This team should be dominant. They should be.
Wow, I don't see this team that way.
Dude,
I really don't.
13 wins is a dominant season.
No, but I don't think this team is. Look, if the Eagles were 10-1 last year.
Yes.
Did any of us think they were dominant?
No.
So I don't believe.
But they kept winning.
I don't believe 12-5 means you were dominant.
But I still don't believe, and I said this a million times, I don't think they fell to 11-6 because of linebackers. They fell to 11-6 because there was stuff going on that we've heard of and may not have heard of yet.
I think there was a ton of. God, you hate using the word. The appearance of quit.
Yeah.
Last year. So that plays to your point.
So that's not because Nicholas Moreau sucked.
No, there was well, he did.
I know, but that's not the reason why they fell.
There was an appearance of quit. Well, sometimes if there are other weak links, other guys will sag because the other weak links are letting the team down constantly.
Or Hassan Reddick didn't believe in Matt Patricia.
Which I absolutely believe.
And stopped listening.
Or started to freelance.
And it was.
Is there any
Nick Sirianni says that it was his call.
Like, is there any doubt now that Fletcher Cox was talking about when he was identifying? He was talking about Hassan Reddick.
Seems like.
And now that the Eagles couldn't wait to let him walk when they had him under contract, and now the Jets are finding out they have a problem in Hassan Reddick.
It was probably more than just Hassan Reddick.
But he was talking about certain players freelancing, trying to get stats. I don't think there's any question that is exactly who he was talking about.
Well, one of the guys.
Could be multiple people.
Because on the defensive side of the ball.
Like, I didn't see Kevin Byard trying to get stats. I saw him make business.
I saw him trying not to get stats.
I saw him make business decisions in a freaking playoff game, and then somehow got paid handsomely by the Chicago Bears. Like, he got a nice contract after making business decisions in a playoff game.
They said, by the way, I saw a thing on ESPN over the weekend. Kevin Byard, they were talking about, I guess he's being interviewed or something, and they're like, boy, he's going to bring such leadership to that locker room.
Yeah, he brought leadership by dogging plays in a playoff game. Ridiculous. All right, what do we have on the text line about the Eagles, Connor? We'll get to a couple of texts, and then I want to give you this Reuben Frank observation on NBC Sports Philadelphia about Jaylen Hurts and the final quarters of seasons.
Yeah, so Justin from Delaware checks in. He's not happy with your guys' evaluation of the relationship. He said John and Andrew are beating not a dead horse, a decomposed horse with respect to the Nick Sirianni and Jaylen Hurts relationship.
On. Is Diana Rossini reporting this on Friday?
Is that a dead horse?
No. I'm not even asking about dead horse, if the horse is breathing or not. We hadn't talked about it until it was brought back up again.
I got you.
With training camp starting on Wednesday. That means it's still a problem.
And somebody in Diana Rossini who actually is involved with these people, talks to these people, observes these people, is telling you it's a story, but somebody who doesn't have any contact with it is going to tell you that it's not a story?
Continue. Read the rest of the text.
Oh, it's only 3 other words.
Oh.
Connor is right. but that's an important part of the text. No, and here's the thing, right? Justin, our texter there, might agree with the way I'm approaching this, but I'm not approaching this as a non-story.
Oh, it's a story.
It's definitely a story.
Like, I can't sit here and ignore what Diana Rossini reported. If Diana Rossini never said what she said on Friday, we're talking about, camps on Wednesday. What are you
right? Exactly.
What are you looking forward to? What are you not looking? What are you worried about from the roster standpoint? We're not talking about Sirianni and Hurts,
but
we might say can't wait to hear from Jaylen Hurts when he finally has a chance to talk about Nick Sirianni again.
Do you believe Diana Rossini talked to Jaylen Hurts in this report? I do.
I would imagine she tried.
I do. I absolutely do. And you know what? Would have been Diana Rossini's report could have been Jaylen Hurts, or my sources are telling me
they squashed everything.
He is so enthused about this season. Can't wait for it. Is so excited to put last year behind him.
What do you think is the percentage chance that the source is not Jaylen Hurts? It has nothing to do with Jaylen Hurts.
Zero.
How?
Zero. That the fact is that she never talked to that Jaylen wasn't a contributor to her report. Zero. I'm not saying he's the only one.
How can you have absolute 100% certainty?
Because I'm going, who is first of all? I do not believe that a reporter of her caliber.
Right, but belief is not certainty.
I'm basing it on years and years of observing the best in the business do their jobs. And I do not believe that they would go, hey, Brian Johnson, you got fired. Tell us about you getting fired. And Brian Johnson would literally say, wasn't my fault. Here was what was going on. Here's what was bad. And she would run with that. I don't believe for 1 second she would do that.
And then she could have asked other people. Look,
she would then get other people to reaffirm.
It could have been Hurts' agent group. For all I know, it may not have been Jaylen Hurts himself.
It's people speaking on behalf of Hurts. Could very well be. You absolutely are correct.
Could be. That's why I can't sit here and say Diana Rossini is basically telling us that Jaylen Hurts said. Like, I can't. We don't know.
I think it's unwise to treat something with a 0% probability in life. Like, strange things happen all the time. People do stuff out of character all the time. If you want to say like 99-1, okay, but to give a 0% chance that something different happened than what you believe happened is a dangerous way to approach this.
Okay.
And you know what?
And then your vote is counted. I do not agree with you in the least.
Not that she would tell us who it was.
Because and that's part of it. Right. That makes me even more convinced.
But maybe I'll try to get Diana on this week.
Would love it.
And we'll talk to her about it because this is a 30-second clip from a podcast where she's probably talking about a lot of things, not just about the Eagles.
And I know from her reputation she is thorough.
Mm-hmm.
That is her reputation is being cross-checking.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say anything about that.
I don't believe for 1 second that she has not spoken to Hurts and gotten word from Hurts or gotten someone to say, what does Jaylen feel about this? Here is what Jaylen feels about it. I guarantee the woman is a very thorough reporter.
She's great.
No, I got you.
She's fantastic.
So I don't doubt it 1%.
All right, what else do we have on the text line, Connor?
All right, the rest of our texts here are checking in on the Phillies conversation about how you're viewing the season. So Bill in Medford says, I'm still watching the Phils every day. I'm still as zoned in on the season as when it started. One question that I have now, and I think this is an interesting one, are the Phils now having a platoon at second base? That's something that does make me think about later on down the road.
So it's funny he said that. Speaking of NBC Sports Philadelphia, because I'm about to go through this Reuben Frank observation article. With the latest story about the Phillies, Stott out again versus lefty. Are the Phillies platooning at second base? I don't think that they are, but again, we've talked about it. He's not having a good season.
Would it be deserved if they did? I think it would
maybe.
be. Do you need to get more at bats for a guy in like a Sosa who has been such a big part of what you were able to accomplish, especially during Trey Turner's absence?
It's so weird, man. Like,
it's hard.
I don't know what Edmundo Sosa is.
Right.
I think, this is going to sound insane. I think it made the Phillies' lives harder how Edmundo Sosa played when he was in for Trey Turner.
Expound on that a little bit.
Nick Castellanos has not been replaced in right field despite struggles throughout the season because you had no other option that you could have possibly put there, and it forces you to give a veteran player a chance to play out of it. Like, it was the only way they were going to approach it. Edmundo Sosa playing well like that gives you this mystery box of, could he be the better option? And when you have two players that you're deciding between, you start to have more questions about a guy than maybe you probably should. Like, the smart way to handle this should probably be Bryson Stott's been a great player for us the last 2 years, and in the postseason, he's had big moments. We should probably play him at second base and let him come out of it. But when you see a player give you an opportunity to believe they could be better, even if you don't have enough data on the player to know, then you've got to split time, and you're almost weaker by deciding between two guys.
That glove of Stott
it's
makes
tremendous,
it more difficult. Makes it more difficult. If his glove was mediocre, they absolutely would be platooning. Then I would be convinced that's probably the thing they should do. But his glove is exceptional.
Oh, it's like the Rojas conversation all over again.
You know,
but,
it is.
But do you want to have
very much is
you want to have two of that? Is another question.
And I think people don't want to think that he's having a terrible season.
Honestly, it's funny.
People don't want to own that.
I think you're right. So, by the way, his splits. He's hitting 235 against righties, 238 against lefties. So it's not like
it's a big.
It's not like he's hitting 180 against lefties, but it's not like he's hitting exceptional against righties. So
he's not having a bad year.
He's not having a good season. Period. So in his career, all right, I don't want to compare it to Jaylen Hurts, but because we're talking about Jaylen Hurts today, Jaylen Hurts got paid for an incredible year, and I expect him to still be a franchise quarterback. I expect Bryson Stott to be a long-time baseball player. He hit 234 his first season, went up to 280 last year, back down to 235 this year. It's not like he's had one good year.
Yeah.
He's had one,
but he's had,
I think we crowned
moments. But I think
he's had tremendous moments.
And he also has, in baseball, it's very unique in the offensive and the defensive skill sets. His defensive skill set is it's exceptional. It's top of his sport in that area. He's in that conversation.
But I think we crowned Bryson Stott early as batting champion.
Oh no, we kept being told that.
Yeah.
By the Phillies and by Phillies broadcasters that people were saying it.
I believe that. I believe that watching his approach at the plate and the way he was able to create
patient,
contact.
And this year he has no patience. It doesn't appear patient.
He's walked more already this season.
But he's seeing less pitches.
So he's walked 40 times this year. He walked 39 total last season, 36 the year before that. He's also cut his strikeouts down, which is a big deal.
Well, yes, but the problem is that he is trying to be, he's split between trying to be aggressive and to hit out of it, but being patient to continue the approach that he's had. He doesn't want to let good pitches go by, and you get caught in between approach. It's kind of what happened to Castellanos earlier this year, it seemed like, too. He's more of an aggressive player. So when they had that whole decision coming off the NLCS to say, hey, we're going to be more selective as a team, he got caught in between two approaches, and he didn't really have a consistent way to attack something. And that's a tough place to be.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Rob Thompson handles it come playoff time. He was not stop platoon in the playoffs in 2022, right? With Segura and Sosa.
Yeah,
he didn't start. He didn't start every game. Two seasons. I'm not talking about 10 years ago.
He was also sent down mid-season in 2022.
Right. So two playoffs
How long
ago.
Was that?
2 weeks maybe.
2 weeks, maybe
yeah,
3
not
weeks.
long.
Sort of like the Rojas.
Yeah, and Bohm. They did it with Bohm.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
Alvarado.
Two playoffs ago, Bryson Stott was a platoon player in the playoffs. Brandon Marsh, as much as everybody loves him, has been a platoon player in both playoffs. Rob Thompson's not afraid to do it. And it might come to that point. Now, again, the splits aren't much different. He's just having a bad year. Is he a good enough player for you to let him keep on playing in the playoffs? This isn't like if Bryce Harper was struggling, let's say he hit 200 all season long. He's still my starting first baseman in the playoffs.
Yeah, the good news is you still have so much more time than it feels like. Like for us,
I agree
the
with
playoffs feel closer as Phillies fans than it does for other teams.
But if the season ended today, is he your every game playoff starting second baseman?
No, he's not.
And that's crazy.
That's it. That is crazy.
Considering what we penciled him in as the everyday second baseman after one good season.
I actually, though, I hope he is the everyday second baseman.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't want them to do this. As much as Sosa's been Sosa, I want them to let him play out of this and show improvement. I really do.
Well, and
because the defense is so good, I'm willing to ride it out more.
Okay.
And by the way, Nick Castellanos, his defense is spectacular also, the way he's turned his defensive career around.
So is his comedic timing.
There you go.
Dude, unreal. I can't believe he did it again yesterday. I can't believe we didn't talk about it. He did it again yesterday. Big news breaks in the world, and the guy hits a deep drive to the left. Unbelievable. All right, coming up next, I'll give you these numbers from Ruben Frank on Jaylen Hurts in the final quarter of the season. We'll get more of your reactions. You can text and call in 610-632-0975. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. On Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this Monday morning. Still to come, we have the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show, followed by our crossover with Bob Cooney. And, of course, more of your text messages and your calls at 610-632-0975. Connor's all fired up about LeBron James, who will be carrying the United States flag during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. And I'm going to quote you without saying the words. That's a big bleeping deal.
Yeah.
That is a big honor.
No, it's an honor for anybody, but because it's the first time it's a basketball player.
Yeah, but basketball to me feels like a fringe Olympic sport. No disrespect to the game of basketball, but when I think Olympics, I don't think is basketball basketball is a focal point unless you have a team that's just like monstrous here in this country, because we're just going to beat the brakes off everybody not named South Sudan. But for that to be acknowledged that he's carrying that out, and I'm a LeBron guy. Like, I'm a huge fan of LeBron James.
Right.
I just think it's very cool. He's the first men's basketball player to ever carry the flag for this country at an Olympics. I think that's a really important moment.
Now, that's the surprising thing, because you said Jordan never did it, and that is surprising to me.
Couldn't be my GOAT.
I'm not surprised that LeBron's doing it, because if you think about it, we just went through that all-century list, the quarter pole of the all-century list. Michael Phelps came in at number 1, right, in terms of greatest athletes since the beginning of the century. He's not in the Olympics anymore. LeBron was, 4th on that list? He was in the top 5. I forget what number. Because Serena Williams, then it was Messi, I think was 3rd, and LeBron was 4th.
Then I think Johnny Weir.
So
he came in next.
So LeBron James is one of the best athletes since 2000. Like, I think that's for the United States of America, period. Best athletes in the world. He's number 1 in the United States. Why not?
Plus, I think, too, other Olympic athletes, and it is what I'm seeing here, Connor, is that it is usually other athletes, like, sort of letting their opinion be known.
Yeah.
I bet you that very much like if the three of us, we all appreciate LeBron James. I think it's almost the other athletes sort of fanboying around that LeBron's on there, all represent the United States together. I still think and you talk about, like, we all have different ways we admire him and in different ways that we talk about him. I admire the fact that at 15 and 16, we all knew his name, and he has managed to navigate life the way he has. I admire the hell out of that.
Right.
Because I did, and I was one of those people who thought he's going to get too much too soon. This is going to not work out. His head's been screwed on right.
Yeah.
And I admire the hell out of that. Plus, he's been great.
Right.
Spectacular.
And for this,
amazing.
For me, whoever's carrying the flag, I would imagine should be like almost the best of your country. And so if I'm thinking about it, I like watching the Olympics, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know every United States Olympic athlete. Like, I know Katie Ledecky from swimming, I know Simone Biles from gymnastics, and I know the basketball team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if it wasn't LeBron, it's Simone Biles or Katie Ledecky to me. So
I agree.
I'm not shocked that it's LeBron. I'm shocked that it's the first time ever that it's a basketball player.
Well, again, I just think, and not that like the NBA needs to be validated. We know how big of a league it is and how important of a product it is, not just in this country, but worldwide. But just like as an Olympic sport, basketball has always kind of felt like an outsider to me. So it's just a very,
I get you.
It feels like a big moment for how that's perceived.
They weren't playing basketball in Athens, Greece back in 8 BC.
Absolutely not.
They couldn't ball.
No.
They couldn't ball. Those guys can't ball.
We don't talk about that enough. No hoopers in ancient Greece.
No hoopers. They got the Greek freak, but in ancient Greece, no hoopers. All right, so Reuben Frank did 10 observations during the offseason. So these are all over the place. Like, one of them, these are just random things that he found.
Okay.
One of them was the only player the Eagles have drafted in the last 20 years that has 10 interceptions, not in a season, just 10 interceptions, period, drafted. Do you guess who? Over the last 20 years.
That has 10 interceptions?
Yeah. So this is since 2004. So, like, obviously, Lito Shepherd was before that.
Oh, it's true.
Ooh, wait. So, it's 10 interceptions when? Since being drafted?
since being drafted.
I think I know it.
It's not in a season.
Right, just overall.
Yes.
Is it Rasul Douglas?
No.
Okay. I figured he would probably be close.
No idea.
Nate Allen.
Oh, my God. I still have no idea.
Nate
That's
Allen
unbelievable.
is the only Eagle in the last 20 years that has been drafted. Again, not free agent signing, not trade, not cut player from a different team.
Oh, 10 with the team?
10 with the team.
I never in a million years would have thought that.
No, 10 with the team. And he had 10.
Nope. Never would have believed it.
On the dot, which is amazing. But like all kinds of random observations. But then he throws this one out there, his number one observation.
And
it's something to keep an eye on. And it shouldn't completely surprise you. What concerns Ruben Frank about Jaylen Hurts, in 36 starts over the first 13 weeks of his 3 seasons being a quarterback, passer rating 95.4, 52 touchdown passes to 21 picks, and a 65% completion percentage. His passer ratings, 12th out of 37 quarterbacks during that span.
Okay.
And the Eagles are 26-10 in those games. In the 11 starts over the last 5 weeks of his season during his career, his passer rating drops from 95.4 to 82.7.
Okay.
52 touchdowns to 9. Now, again, less games, missed 2 of them a couple of years ago. 9 interceptions, and a completion percentage drops 2 points to 63%. That passer rating is 22nd out of 29. Here's his biggest thing, the late season injuries.
Okay.
And being banged up. Is that something that we just have to kind of be used to? He's going to get hurt. He's going to be banged up.
And these numbers don't bother me as much. When I look at them,
it's not like dead last.
Well, I mean, 2021, like when you go number of touchdowns, 2021, he didn't play week 17. 2022, he didn't play week 15, 16.
He was hurt for 2 of them, yeah.
15 and 16. 2023, I mean, like.
It was a bad year.
Exactly. I'm not reading too much into that. I think Rube does bring up some interesting things, though, in that I believe there's a wear and tear on his body.
And that's what he says. My theory
absolutely is.
He says, my theory is that late season injuries and general wear and tear have had a dramatic effect on Hurts' performance each year.
What's the latest game that Jaylen Hurts has ever played? The Super Bowl.
And he was great.
What's the best game he's ever played?
That's a good point, John.
That's why I'm not worried
about it. It's one of the brightest things you've ever said on the show. 91 shows in.
That's why I'm not worried about it at all, because the greatest game that Jaylen Hurts played was the game with the most pressure on his shoulders and the latest in a season after he's been dinged up and everything. I'm not worried about
I
Jaylen.
might have a dumb counter to that.
Okay.
And
you probably will.
I think Jaylen Hurts was really good in the postseason, but I don't think he really had to be. Like, remember, you blew out the Giants.
Are you Nick Wright now?
No, listen.
I'm joking.
You were 31-7 in both
I've got
those
the
games?
hair. You blew, 31-7, and then it was like 30.
I thought they were both the same score.
One,
49er game and the Giant.
No, one was 38-7.
Yeah, so one was 38.
Because it was the repeat of the Vikings score. But you didn't play any tight games, or it was like down to the wire. You had to grind out victories, and then you had the week off before the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
like,
you were able to take him off the field in fourth quarters.
Yeah, he was pretty well rested when you got to that point. Like, I'd be lying to you if I told you that part of me doesn't worry about that wear and tear factor.
His longevity, yeah.
If you have a tougher stretch in a postseason.
And remember, Nick Sirianni, after he first got paid, said we're not paying him more to do less, and we saw him clearly hampered last year. I know there's been no injury of note, but you could tell just by watching him that he wasn't moving as quick.
But does that mean he was injured?
Probably.
I don't think you just slowed.
Or does that mean no?
I don't think it's because he was fat and drank too much over the weekend like I did.
Does it mean previous stuff caused that?
No. Because he was faster at the start of the year. Like that Buffalo game, he was really good.
Yeah, and that was in the beginning of the year. That was late in the year.
That was towards
exactly.
That was Thanksgiving weekend.
No, there was definitely something lower
He couldn't
body.
get out on the edge anymore. Like, he could not beat guys out on the edge like he was able to in the previous years and early part of the season. And so I think that's Rube's biggest theory / concern is the health of Jaylen Hurts during that final month of the season. And if we're talking about tight, even though I believe they win comfortably, the division, tight races in the division, you want your quarterback playing at a high level. It's just an interesting theory that he pointed out.
I definitely believe there's been a war of attrition with his own body.
Oh, yeah.
But again, he was beaten up, and the best game he ever played.
That was a great
late,
point, John.
Was late.
Great point. I got to give you credit. Show 91,
Thank
man.
you very much.
We'll remember this one.
There we go.
When we're doing show 1,000, that your best point happened on show 91.
There we go.
All right, give us a text before we get to our key 3 and our Cooney crossover.
All right, we have another check-in on the Eagles and Hurts conversation here. Mark in Cherry Hill says, Hurts' attitude relates to the complete failure of the offensive coordinator and the coach to adjust to the change in defensive strategy. It began in the game against San Francisco and followed by subsequent opponents. It left Hurts out to dry, shouldering the blame, shouldering the load for the offense, and raising questions about his ability.
Well, hold on. We didn't just blame Hurts for the offense. First, Brian Johnson, I think, got the most heat.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni probably second most.
I agree.
Jaylen Hurts, I think, got little heat and probably deserved more.
Well, he got little heat here, but nationally, we just saw him ranked 13th.
Right,
We believe he's better.
Yeah.
There was a lot of national heat on, this is a down year for Jaylen Hurts. Is he not the guy we thought he was?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had those conversations, have we not?
We have. Yeah, I mean, I literally said he got paid for one good year.
And I don't think it warrants, if this is indeed beef between Hurts and Sirianni, I don't think it warrants beef, but that's the point the guy's trying to make,
Right,
at least.
okay.
That's actually their mark.
All right, I got you. Thank you, Mark, for the text. I appreciate it. All right, coming up next, we got the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, followed by our crossover with one Bob Cooney. It's Kincade Salciunas on a Monday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Guess the most
Fanatic. Before we get to the key three, I want to let you know tomorrow is the big ticket raid. We've been telling you about this for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we'll have an online ticket raid at 975thefanatic.com for your chance to get FanFest tickets, which is coming Saturday, September 28th at Xfinity Live, presented by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Biggest part of the year for Philadelphia sports fans. You guys know it. You guys love it. Year 11 of FanFest coming on Saturday, September 28th. But the ticket raid, number 2, tomorrow at 9 a.m. All right, it's time now for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
Here's Diana Rossini, who's now at The Athletic, and she had a podcast, and she was talking about the Eagles' situation last season with Nick Sirianni as we're about to start camp this week. Take a listen to what she said about head coach Nick Sirianni and the disappointing season for the Eagles last year.
It's a relationship that's a work in progress, right? So last year, there was some disconnect, right, between them in their personality. Those 10 wins were a grind from what I was told. It was Nick Sirianni's show. It was all Nick. Everything you saw on that field was Sirianni.
So let me ask him, John. You say it's totally one-sided, but haven't we heard that story 100 times now?
I will tell you this, is that first off, who speaks to, it was 100% Nick Sirianni's offense. I completely cry BS to that. So Brian Johnson had no input. Nothing at all.
He may not have, and that's a problem.
He had no input. So Brian Johnson did not have a thing to say about it.
This isn't the first time something like this has been reported, John.
100%. He had no say in the offense. I cry BS.
Okay, fine.
And
80%,
I guarantee. No, well then that's not what Diana Rossini said. That's not what she said. What she said is it was 100% Nick Sirianni's offense. 100%. There's no collaboration. It's all Nick Sirianni. Bull crap. That is absolutely false. And by the way, just poking around this weekend, talking to some people that, have a little more insight into the Eagles than I did, would say 100% false.
Okay.
That one guy dictates anything, and an offensive coordinator has no input, no say, no touch of the design. You hands off you. Now you're going to call the plays, but you're just going to call my plays, and you have no input. Ridiculous.
Are you at the point where you're saying, wake me up when October comes for the Phillies? I'm not. I'm going to enjoy every single second because this could end up being the greatest season of my life, of the franchise's history, and I don't want to miss anything from it. So I'm not there yet, but John, I do not think that you're alone.
Now I find my mind wandering, but I'm enjoying.
I know you're enjoying it.
I just want to enjoy it.
Right.
I don't want to think about October right now. I'm going to channel my inner Ray Dunn. I want to make sure that I'm focused on just enjoying this run. Well, right now, as I see things get closer to, it's inevitable they win the NL East.
Right.
Then all I can think of is, well, what's their seed?
Well, and because of the World Series
what's
and
their
the
seed going to be?
NLCS.
What's their seeding going to be?
Yeah.
I begged for this regular season the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
And I finally got
it. Now you want to get out of it.
And I'm just like, all I can think about is it going to make it different come October? I watched LeBron James come into this league. I watched Michael Jordan come into this league, their entire careers, and from day one have a fierce desire to be the best from the beginning of their careers to the end. I didn't see that out of Joel Embiid.
I think you're insane to say that.
Well, I didn't.
Every single year, Joel Embiid has added a new element to his game. Just because he doesn't do the Kobe grin and the jersey tug.
Not what I'm speaking of. From the beginning of his career, did Joel Embiid come in with the eye of the tiger to be the greatest player in the game? Did he come in with the proper conditioning, the proper work ethic, the proper attitude to be the best player in the game? No. Don't compare him to LeBron. Don't compare him to Michael Jordan. Don't compare him to Kobe. With the professionalism and that attitude to just knock everybody down. Do I believe he has it now? Absolutely.
Okay.
No questions asked. But that's held him back from ever being in that conversation.
This is what I want to try to figure out today. No matter who you think is the source of this discussion, whether it's Jaylen Hurts, Brian Johnson, maybe it's Marcus Mariota, maybe he really didn't like the offense. People are still talking. People are still complaining about Nick Sirianni.
They are.
There's no turning back. He's the head coach of this football team. They decided after, 8 days that he was going to continue being the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles despite the collapse that happened last year. We're going into another season with Nick Sirianni as the head coach. Are you going to ignore stories like this, or are you going to have Nick Sirianni on the radar all season long? I know I'm the latter. I know I'm going to be taking a look at Nick Sirianni and every single move that he makes during weeks, coaching, the way he's handling training camp. I can't ignore this kind of stuff, but I'm sure there are a lot of Eagles fans that go, I can't have another negative story like this. I just want to watch the Eagles play football. All right, that's the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. And now we are joined by the great Bob Cooney. Bobby, good morning.
What's up, boys? What's going on?
How was you were at nights in Venice? Did you swim out to Brandon Graham's boat?
No. We got there early. It starts. I think the parade started at 6. We were on the water at like 2 on wave runners, just going in and out of the different lagoons where the boats parade.
Okay.
How much fun was that?
It's a party.
It's a blast.
I was an observer. I wasn't partying. We were on wave runners and just kind of observing these kids, and we towed some kids who I needed to get placed. What do they call when they have the gallon Borg?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
the gallon jugs?
Yes. Yeah, the Borgs.
Okay, the Borgs.
A lot of kids with the gallon jugs swimming in the bay.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that we gave a little pool to and stuff. So it was cool. And then we were there kind of all day, but around 6:30, we had to head back.
Okay, I was just wondering if you swam out to Brandon Graham.
I did not swim out to him. I don't think I saw his boat. Like I said, we left right as it was getting started. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's
he
nice.
was the Grand Marshal.
How was the rest of your weekend?
It was awesome. Yes, no complaints at all. 15-7. That's the record of the Phillies with Ray Dunn in attendance.
That's impressive.
That's a really good
That's
number.
a good winning percentage.
That's a 682 winning percentage. Yes.
Yeah.
They went
Which is-
0-1 this weekend as he drove out to Pittsburgh.
Which is, it's even better than their
He only went to
season-long
one.
winning
It is.
He only went to one.
He
of the
only
games?
went to one. He was waiting, tailgating for the second one, but prices didn't go down enough, so he didn't get it. So we got a lot on the plate today. We got Phillies, we got Sixers, and of course Eagles.
Wait, he made a drive to Pittsburgh and didn't end up going to the game?
It's a little too expensive, he said, for the ticket. He went Friday night.
Yeah, but you made
Saturday
the
was a hit or
drive.
miss. It turned out the ticket was too expensive. I can appreciate that.
No, I get that, but like
You drove all the way out.
it's
though.
not like he went to
friends.
Citizens
You
Bank
get-
Park. He took a subway to Citizens Bank Park.
brown bag it this week to cover up that ticket.
Okay, maybe there's a little controversy on the midday
There
show
may be.
today.
All right,
Interesting.
maybe.
I'm curious. You make the drive to not even go to the game.
Yeah,
That's-
you got to go.
That's
He did
wild.
go to one. He just didn't go to both.
No, you can eat Lunchables for a few days, and
Well, he gets free meals every time.
yeah, he does.
Oh, geez. Chef Mosher's going to join us at 1 o'clock to
I
talk a
love
little bit
Moshe.
Eagles. Yes, so fun-filled, jam-packed show today.
All right,
Ray
well,
Dunn's my co-host, that guy that didn't go to that game.
He's a good co-host. I've enjoyed listening to you guys the last couple of.
Yeah, they
days.
come in and out co-hosts, so, it's cool. Whoever it is, they're always great.
Cooney and friends.
Bob, you're doing great.
There you go.
All right, thank you, Bobby.
See you, Bob.
Later, boys.
God. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, H&H Heating and Air Conditioning, and make a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives.
All right, we're back at it tomorrow. We will report to the station. The Eagles will be reporting to NovaCare as tomorrow is report day for training camp. And, of course, the camp starts on Wednesday. So a lot of Eagles talk this week, more Phillies talk, and a whole lot more. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Talk to you tomorrow morning, 97.5.